everyone. Happy Wednesday. The week is half over, which is amazing. And it is raining here. It's pretty overcast and rainy. We were supposed to get thunderstorms, but I haven't heard any thunder yet. So the snow is melting. It was 50 degrees today, even though it was raining. So I cannot complain at all. And next week, it's supposed to be 60. So I'm super excited. Spring is near. Spring is near. So sorry about the time change. I was a little, I should know I'm not going to be able to get here at 3:30. So thanks for bearing with me. I am going to split up day 2, which would have been yesterday, into 2 parts. We'll see how it goes. I may play a little bit of part 2 of day 2, but I think I'm just going to do like half today, half tomorrow. And then I did see, I'm trying not to look at updates. I did see the prosecution rested this morning. So hopefully Friday I will, have more time and we can maybe have the verdict, but maybe not. Maybe they won't have the verdict until Monday. We'll see. So thanks for being here. Deafening Silence, Curious, Drive Safe, Sinner, thanks for being here. All right, and StreamYard changed. They have these new things. It's like a beta. I guess they're trying out these scenes. So like there's less room for like stuff. It's like too crowded now. It's driving me nuts. So let me add this. We're going to get started right away. And I do apologize. I don't know what's with the lighting, if they didn't have the lights on in the courtroom or what was happening, but it's really hard to see the witnesses and it's a little hard to hear them. So you may need to turn up your volume just a little bit so that you can hear them. All right, Irish. See you later. All right. There we go. All right, so I am going to mute. Hey, Evil Queen, thanks for being here. I'm going to mute and I will be chatting in chat with you guys. All right, I'm going to try this. It sounds even worse now than it did before. I'm going to try and find another feed. It sounded better when I listened to it on my phone. All right, let's see. Let me try Fox 2. Oh, is this Fox 2? Oh, yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Pause. Let's see. Okay, so this is annoying. Fox didn't do it live yesterday. All right, so hopefully they fix the volume in this one. Unfortunately, we're going to have to just bear with it.
I started my career in Bedford Township in 1998 until 2000.
So also, how long have you been a first responder?
Approximately 26 years.
You indicated that you are a paramedic.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a paramedic?
Approximately 23 years.
And were you employed as a firefighter and a paramedic on April 20th, 2024?
Yes, sir.
How were you assigned on that day?
I was the shift commander in charge of the day's operations.
What, I guess for those of us that are in the industry, what does shift commander for days operation actually mean?
So I'm responsible for the emergent and non-emergent response to all calls for service within the township, outside of the township, as well as general supervision associated with personnel that are assigned to that vicinity.
As a supervisor, do you respond to all the calls, or is it sort of depend on the nature of the call?
Yes, sir. Depends on the nature of the call. The higher priority calls are typically the incidents that I would respond to.
And when you say higher priority, does that mean more serious?
Yes, sir. Serious in nature.
And were you dispatched to the Swan Boat Club on April 20th, 2024?
I was.
And do you recall what that dispatch was?
Yes, sir. Berlin Township Fire Department was dispatched to the Swan Boat Club under report of a vehicle through the building with multiple persons injured on the ground as well as a possible child in the crowd.
Is Swan Boat Club in your jurisdiction?
No, sir, it's not.
You were brought in as extra help?
Yes, sir, we were.
And when you received that dispatch, do you recall where you were?
Yes, sir. I was at Station 1, getting ready to pull out of the parking lot, perform some general errands for the day.
And how did you respond to that dispatch?
I responded to my department issued vehicle with my emergency license siren activated to the scene approximately 9 minutes.
Do you know about the time you arrived on scene?
I believe it would have been about 3:15.
Were there other first responders or law enforcement already there?
Yes, sir. I pulled in with Berlin Fire Department's first arriving unit as well as the sergeant from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
You were very early to the scene.
Yes, sir.
And can you please describe what you observed when you arrived at Swan Boat Club?
So once I parked my vehicle, I noticed the large hole in the side of the building. Numerous people on the exterior of the building looking for help, asking for help, as well as an individual being attended to on the right side of the building, right side of the building.
Do you know who that would be?
That would have been St. Phil's.
And did you enter the boat club?
That is, sir.
How did you enter the boat club?
Through the opening that was created by the vehicle.
What did you see when you entered?
Equal amount of chaos on the inside. To my right were 3 individuals, 2 of them, 2 females sitting in the chair, 1 female lying on the floor.
Did you interact yourself with any of the injured victims?
No, sir. I was able to ascertain that they were conscious, alert, breathing, and not in need of immediate medical attention.
Is that because of your role as a supervisor?
Yes, sir. As a senior paramedic on scene and first arriving, my responsibilities typically would be to triage or categorize the nature of injuries associated with each victim and arrange for the transport of those victims as appropriate.
And so you were also involved in determining who went ambulance or life flight if necessary?
Yes, sir. I was.
Do you recall if anybody was life flighted that day?
Yes, sir. I believe that would have been Shady Phil's.
That is the son that survived. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And nobody else was transported by a life flight?
No, sir.
Is that because it was determined that there wasn't injuries there? We're not so severe that they needed that?
For the totality of the injuries, I believe we transported 7 total patients, 1 went by air ambulance, 2 air ambulances were requested to see through the initial aircraft, assisted in advanced life support procedures with ZEC in the back of a crush down ambulance.
So you requested a second air, and as you call it air ambulance, I call it flight, I'll call it air ambulance, sorry. You requested that was ultimately not used?
Correct. The crews utilized the aircraft design.
Why was that not used?
Those individuals from that aircraft were tasked with assisting the resuscitation efforts with the same.
But he passed it on. He had deceased on the scene.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many victims were transported by ambulance?
6 total by ground, 1 by air.
And do you know where those victims were sent? The ones that went? Do you know where the victim that was lifeline went?
Jake was transported by aircraft to University of Michigan Moss Hospital.
And out of not the road ambulances, where were those victims transported to?
Ms. Dodds was transported by French County ambulance to Corwell Trenton. I believe Ms. Stiff was transported by Huron Valley ambulance crew to Corwell Trenton. And then I believe we had 2 additional patients, Ms. Graff and Richards, were transported by a Rockwood ambulance to Wyandotte Hospital. And Mr. Smothers was transported by a Monroe Community ambulance to Detroit Children's Hospital.
And were some victims able to transport themselves?
That is my understanding.
So you wouldn't have been involved in that? They would have gotten a ride or driven themselves?
That's correct.
So you referenced where you saw people injured in there. Do you know specifically where Ms. Stiff was located initially?
I believe Ms. Stiff was at the base of the bar, almost to the end on the right side if you were facing the bar from the hole that had been created inside of the building, laying on her back, being attended to by a male.
And what about Mr. Edward Smothers? Do you know where he was initially located?
I believe Mr. Smothers was in the breezeway, more or less in the center of the breezeway, sitting in an upright position. He had a obvious deformity to his right leg. He had some injuries to his face that were bleeding.
When you say obvious deformity, are you indicating what appears to be broken?
Yes, sir.
Diane Medina, do you know where Ms. Medina was found?
I believe Ms. Medina was just to the left of Ms. Stiff, just to the rear of the vehicle.
So that would also be along the bar?
Yes, sir. Facing the bar.
And lastly, do you know where Jaden Phillips was located?
Jaden, is my understanding that he was thrown over the top of the bar and was located to the left, down below some of the debris.
Are you saying that Jaden was hit by the car and thrown actually over the bar and was found underneath it?
That's
behind it?
That's correct.
Were you involved in providing any aid to Zane Phillips?
No, sir. The only interaction I had with him was my initial assessment of him as I was entering the building. And then when I exited the building, I did stop and check for a pulse on the same.
And at that point, did he still have a pulse?
He did, however, was weak and forever.
Do you know where Zane was originally located?
I'm not aware of where Zane originally was located.
Because he had already been extricated by
Yes,
the
sir.
time. What about Alana Phillips? Do you know where she was located?
Ms. Phillips, when I was triaging Mr. Smothers and Ms. Dodds, it was made aware of me that Alana was somewhere in the vicinity of the vehicle. When I moved some of the debris, I was able to locate her at the corner of the door, just in front of the vehicle.
Were you able to remove her?
I was not.
Why is that?
Based on my training, education, and experience, I was able to determine that the injuries she had sustained were not compatible with life.
It was safe. Are you issued a camera viewer daily?
No, sir.
No, for the function, Judge. Cross. Go ahead.
Please put the speech to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next witness, Judge Bigwell, Deputy Stephen Schmidt.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help
you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Deputy Stephen Schmidt, STEVENSCHMITT.
Thank you. Ms. Ford.
Thank you, Judge.
Deputy, what do you do for work?
I'm a police officer in the County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you worked for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office?
approximately 5 years.
Okay. Did you have any law enforcement jobs before that?
I did.
And what was that?
I worked for the Dundee Police Department for approximately 2.5 years.
Did you have any law enforcement jobs before that?
I did.
What was that?
I worked for the Riverview Police Department for just a short amount of time, approximately 9 months.
Okay, so you've been a law enforcement officer just over 8 years?
Around there.
And were you working for the Sheriff's Department on April 20th?
That was.
And what was your assignment back then?
I was assigned to road patrol.
Since then, you've been promoted to a specialized division within the Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
So you're no longer a road patrol deputy?
No, I'm assigned to the detective bureau.
And currently, you have all the training, certification, and educations necessary to be a certified police officer in the state of Michigan?
I did.
And all those are up to date as of now?
Yes.
And they were up to date on April 20th?
Yes, sir.
And what was your assignment on April 20th?
I was assigned to road patrol, District 1, which would be North County.
Okay. And in road patrol, you respond to calls for service.
Yes. So many calls, we go.
Did you receive a call for service that brought you here to testify today?
Yeah.
And what was the nature of that call?
It was for a vehicular crash at the Swanville Club.
And did you respond?
I did.
What did you see when you arrived?
Upon arrival, it was pure chaos when I got there. There were people running around, injured people, people lying on the ground. One of my first observations was a large hole on the side of the boat club where a vehicle had driven through it. Upon walking up, I saw a small child who he didn't appear to be breathing.
Where was he located?
He crashed just outside of the hole in the wall, on the side of the boat club.
So as you're assessing the scene, what do you do to orient yourself?
Well, the first thing I try to do is just kind of find a place wherever I can help. That being with first aid as best as I could.
And where did you wind up within the overall scene?
So, Conservation Officer Ingersoll, he was in the breezeway area between the bar and almost like the foyer type area. He was asking for help. He was with a small child who had a significant leg injury.
Was there anybody else in the breezeway area when you went in?
There was a middle-aged female. She was sitting against the wall.
And what was her state?
She was in and out of consciousness from what I remember.
And so at least initially when you arrived on scene, you just tried to assist with first aid of the victims as you could see.
Yes,
Eventually, did you make contact with Sergeant Coleman?
I did.
And what was his position on the scene in regards to the sheriff's office?
So he was the shift supervisor at the time.
So at the time, was he the commanding officer on scene, for lack of a better term?
Yes, he was the officer in charge.
Did he give you any direction?
He did. He advised me that he had the driver of the vehicle seated in the rear of the patrol vehicle. At that time, he asked me if I would start an investigation for the crash with the driver.
Did he give you any direction in what kind of investigation to perform?
Yes, there were some cues for a possible intoxicated driver, so that was the investigation that I conducted.
Okay. And so at this point, you've been a law enforcement officer for 8 years.
Correct.
All of them road patrol. Had you conducted an OWI investigation prior to that day? About how many?
Personally, somewhere in the range of about 50 myself, plus I've also trained other new deputies and new officers, and been part of their OWI operating non-intoxicating investigations, as well as assisting other officers in the sheriff's office.
So do you receive specialized training specifically to OWI investigations in police academy?
We do.
And as part of being a police officer, do you take updates to that training throughout the course of your employment?
Yes, we do.
And you did as being a police officer for those 8 years?
Yes, sir.
Did you receive any specialized training beyond the academy and those subsequent educations in the OWI investigation?
Yes, so I attended A-Ride training or Advanced Field Sector Driving training in approximately August of 2022.
Okay, and if you could just explain to the jury briefly what that is outside of its name.
So it's just a more specialized training. They teach you some different techniques for sobrieties, besides the main three that are recognized by National Highway Traffic Safety Administration as being like the three primary SFSTs or sobriety tests.
Okay, so I know the term sobriety is SFST, sobriety test. Explain to the jury just a little bit what a sobriety test is, what its purpose is.
So a sobriety test is essentially a divided attention test. Somebody that's under the influence of alcohol or narcotics, they might not be able to focus on instructions, plus then at the same time being able to actually conduct the test.
So you use the term SFST or standardized field sobriety test.
Correct.
What are those in the state of Michigan?
So in the state of Michigan, there are three. The first being the horizontal gaze nystagmus, or what's an eye test. The second being it's called one leg stand. Essentially, you stand on either foot of shoes and you lift the other leg slightly off the ground with your hands to your sides, and you're asked to count numbers. The third being walk and turn. Walk and turn, essentially, you walk a certain steps down, you take a small series of steps and turn yourself around, and then you walk back to the starting point.
Those are the standardized field sobriety tests in Michigan
Correct.
that all officers are trained on.
Correct.
Specifically as to the eye test, the horizontal gaze nystagmus, what are you taught to look for on that test?
So you're taught to look for what's called nystagmus, or an involuntary jerk of your pupils. Somebody who is under the influence, it will tend to, somebody that's sober, your eyes will roll smoothly across your head. Somebody who's under the influence, when they're focusing on the cue, which a pen or the tip of your finger, you'll actually see that their pupils actually jerk from side to side, which shows an impairment.
When conducting these tests, you're not just looking at the results of the test, are you?
No.
What else are you looking for?
You're looking for other cues for intoxication, whether it's bloodshot, watery eyes, whether their inability to stand on their own or keep balance, if they're slurring their speech, their inability to follow simple directions, etc.
So with this training, you approach Sergeant Obia's vehicle, is that right?
Correct.
What do you find when you get there?
Well, the defendant was seated in the rear of Sergeant Momia's vehicle. So that's where I located her at, was in the rear of his patrol vehicle.
What did you do once you located her?
Once I located her, I began to talk to her, ask what her name is, ask if she's injured, just basic questions.
What are the things you're looking for just in asking the basic questions?
Well, immediately you're looking for signs of intoxication, whether they have, like I said, bloodshot, watery eyes, do they smell like they smell like alcohol or intoxicants, or their clothes disheveled, have they vomited or urinated on themselves, just basic signs like that.
So these visual basic signs that you look for in an OWI investigation, did you observe any of them in the defendant that day?
Yes.
Which ones?
So at that time, I could smell the odor of intoxicants coming from her, bloodshot watery eyes, and then later on, inability to keep balance.
Okay. So you had a brief conversation with her as she's seated in the back of the patrol vehicle.
Correct.
And then at some point you make a determination you're going to attempt standardized field sobriety testing.
I do. I asked her if she'd be willing to consent to take some sobriety tests, and she agreed to do so.
Okay. And what did you do with the defendant then?
I had her exit the patrol vehicle. Upon exiting the patrol vehicle, she was having problems with balance. So she used my arm to kind of hold herself up while I walked her to the rear of the patrol vehicle. Before that, during our medical questionnaire, I was informed that she does have neuropathy in her hands and feet.
And what's your understanding of the result of that?
The understanding of neuropathy.
Yes.
Um,
I wouldn't object, he's not a medical professional, it's a combination of humans with neuropathy.
That's why I asked you what his understanding of it is. I'm not asking for an expert opinion, I'm asking with what his understanding of it is, how did that affect how he treated the defendant?
I think that makes sense. He's not giving an expert opinion. The objection is overruled.
and as far as what in my experience of somebody with neuropathy, it's obviously it's something that's neurological, numbing in their hands or feet or legs.
How does that impact the way you conduct your OWI investigation as it pertains to sobriety tests?
So I think immediately at that time, that sort of the one-night stand and walk and turn kind of off the table for me. I didn't feel like she'd be in any condition to try to perform those tests at that time.
And that's because she had self-reported neuropathy and you had witnessed her exhibiting a lack of ability to balance.
Correct.
Even if someone hadn't reported a medical condition, with that lack of balance, how would you approach the standardized field sobriety test?
But in her condition that she was that day.
Yes, or just in general.
So always whenever I have conducted a OWI investigation, I think one of the most important things is to see if they're able to conduct any of the physical tests. If they're able to, no prior injuries or anything that would prohibit them from doing so, then I think that would be sufficient to complete those tests.
So if someone's experiencing a lack of balance, would you ask them to do the one leg stand?
Most likely not.
Why not?
Their safety is paramount for me. I don't want them falling over or tripping on themselves or injuring themselves any further.
And what about the walk and turn?
The walk and turn is the same way. If somebody's having a hard time walking, I don't want to make them walk 8 steps down, take a turn, and then walk 8 steps back towards me. The last thing I want is for somebody to fall into traffic and injure themselves.
But that's not the case with the HDN, right? Of course, obligation status.
Correct.
Did you attempt to conduct that on the defendant?
I did.
And how did that work out?
I tried a few different times. The defendant was not able to focus on the stimulus, which was my finger, so I wasn't able to actually complete that test.
What do you mean she wasn't able to focus?
So when I held my finger up in front of her face, I was moving it back and forth, and she was failing to follow my finger. She was just staring directly at me.
So she wasn't, what do you tell someone with the stimulus when you're conducting an HDN?
I told them to follow with their eyes, and their eyes only don't move their head.
Okay. And was she able to follow with her eyes?
No.
Did she turn her head one way or the other to try to follow?
At some point, she was trying to use her head to follow, but ultimately she was unable to complete the test.
You talk about things you look for in conducting sobriety tests. Her behavior in that test, is that in any way significant to you with your experience and training?
It could be, yes.
And how?
In prior experiences, I've had people that were impaired, they were unable to follow the stimulus while conducting that test. Just because you can't follow the stimulus or complete the test doesn't mean that that's not a sign of intoxication or impairment.
And that's part of following instructions too.
Yes.
So you were only able to attempt one standardized field sobriety test. Are there any other sobriety tests you give in the event that somebody's unable to conduct the physical portions?
Yes. Typically, if somebody's unable to complete the physical portions, I'll go with a mental one, somebody that there is a test that they're able to do without doing anything physically.
Did you do so in this case?
I did.
And what test did you administer?
So I had the defendant recite the alphabet A to Z without singing.
Was she able to do that?
She was able to complete that test.
And did you do any other cognitive tests?
I did.
And what was that?
I did a number counting test. I gave her instructions. I asked her to start from 100 and count backwards to 88.
Was she able to effectuate that test?
She was not.
What were the results of that test?
But I did a little refresh myself with
Yes.
the results. So as far as the results of that test, she was able to count backwards from 100 back to 91, and then back up to 100, and then from there she skipped over 88, and then was counting in 70s and descending in the 70s from 78 to 72.
And the initial instruction was to count from backwards from 100 to 88. At that point, did you do anything else in regards to a roadside OWI investigation?
No, that concluded the investigation.
What was, in your training and experience, what did you believe existed at that time?
Well, I believe that there was probable cause for impairment to make an arrest for operating while intoxicated at that time.
And what did you do with the defendant once you made that determination?
So I placed her in handcuffs, advised her she was under arrest, did handcuff her in front, because earlier she advised that she had a wrist injury from the crash. I didn't really want to handcuff her behind her back and strain herself or hurt herself any further, so I handcuffed her in front, and then she was placed in the rear of my patrol vehicle.
And that included your role in the OWI investigation at the scene.
At the scene, correct?
Did you remain on scene after that?
I did.
And what did you do?
At that time, I was just trying to do whatever I could to try to alleviate some of the duties from anybody that was there. Like I said before, it was a very chaotic situation. There were medical personnel running around everywhere, and I just wanted to make sure that, if anything was needed at that time, that I could be there and assist.
At some point, did you interact with Deputy Carino of the Sheriff's Department?
I did.
And what was the nature of that interaction?
So Deputy Farina wanted to do some further investigation of the whole incident with the defendant.
Deputy Carino wanted to continue the OWI investigation,
Correct.
and he did so,
Correct.
and you stood by while that happened.
I did.
And also during that time, you dealt with other folks at the scene,
I did.
witnesses, is that correct?
Yes.
And other police officers.
Yes.
At some point, were you told to leave the scene?
I was.
And who directed you to do that?
That would have been Sergeant Bowman.
And what instruction did he give you?
He asked me to take the defendant to the hospital so we can do the blood draw for the OWI investigation.
So just explain to the jury roughly, what does that mean?
So after somebody's placed under arrest for operating intoxicated, there's a form that we have to read on. It's their chemical test. There's a DI 177, which is the state form, that's what it's named, and then DI 93. So the 177 is consent, so they give consent for the chemical test. DI 93 would be they don't give consent. On the back of the paperwork, there's instructions. I read her the instructions, asked her if she'd be willing to take a chemical test, which at that time would be a blood draw, and then she would be transported to the hospital to get that blood draw conducted.
And did you in fact transport her to the hospital?
I did.
At this time, were you aware that this crash had fatalities?
I was semi-aware, but not to the full extent.
Okay. By the time you got to the hospital, were you aware?
Yes.
Does the sheriff's office have a policy on chemical testing when there's a fatal crash?
Yes, it's in best judgment to make sure that instead of doing a breath test, a blood draw is done.
And what about as it pertains to a consent?
I believe with the consent blood draw at that time, it would have been best practice to complete a search warrant for the blood regardless.
All right. And did you do so?
I did.
And what's involved, deputy, in completing a search warrant for a blood draw at the hospital?
So we have an online form that we essentially fill out. That's our,
Subject means, or there's all questions of law, the court deciding regarding that.
I'm not proffering it for its legality, I'm proffering it to explain the time frame between the crash and the blood draw.
I think the objection is overruled. I think what he's telling us is just the basic procedure, and I think that's appropriate.
You're very, the procedure I totally respect, it's just pretty time concern. Thank you.
We won't. So you have an online form.
correct, we have an online form that's on our laptops. Fill out the form out. It's essentially everything I kind of just went over, what happened, the day, time, results of sobrieties, what sobrieties were conducted. And then after that, I have to contact whoever's the on-call prosecutor. They have to agree that there's enough probable cause there for the search warrant to be signed. And then I have to contact the on-call magistrate and have the actual search warrant signed and then sent back to me.
And April 20th, 2024 is a Saturday, is that correct?
Correct.
So you're dealing with all folks who are not,
Correct.
that's why you're using the term on call, right?
Yes, sir. Everybody is not working during that time, so.
At least everybody being the for a search.
Correct.
So any idea how long all that took, deputy?
From the time of the crash to the time of the blood draw.
Well, just the time to prepare the search warrant and get it signed.
I don't know specifically, but it kind of is a time-consuming process.
And where do you typically in these types of situations do all that?
It's all done in the vehicle. I don't have access on any of the computers at the hospital to do anything like that, so it has to be done outside of the emergency room, the hospital.
Okay. Is it only upon your completion of those documents that you then enter the hospital?
Yes,
And is that what happened in this case?
yes,
So you go to the scene, you investigate, you leave with the defendant, drive to the hospital, complete your paperwork. At this point, you finally get into the physical hospital.
Correct,
You take the defendant in with you,
yes.
and were there any other law enforcement officers there?
Deputy Flint was there with me as well.
At this point, when you enter the hospital with the defendant, is this the first interaction the hospital has with you and the defendant? Do they know you're coming?
I don't believe they knew I was coming at that time, I don't recall
So once you enter the hospital, what's the procedure once you arrive in these types of cases?
them. So the procedure, anytime we take somebody in the hospital, they need to be ran through registration, to get them registered to the hospital. And then after that, then whoever's working the front desk there, the bed in the ER, they assign us where to go, or assign us a room. Most of these cases, we go to the back, there's a seclusion room back there, which is away from everybody that's in the general area of the emergency room, so that's where I took her that day.
Is that where you were directed to take?
Yes,
And you say she had the defendant was registered at the hospital. Is that common in a OWI investigation?
yes.
Was there any other reason the defendant would have been registered in the hospital that day?
Well, she had some injuries in the crash, specifically her wrist. And I needed to get that attended to before, we could ever even think about leaving the hospital.
So you're not just there for a blood draw, but you're there for treatment for the defendant's injury.
Correct,
And you advise the hospital of that.
yes.
Do you know why Deputy Flint was present also?
I believe Deputy Bowman, or I'm sorry, Sergeant Bowman wanted, another officer there, security reasons, and just to make sure we had two sets of eyes on everything, so everything was all secured.
Is that typical in an OWI blood draw?
Sometimes, but not typically.
So in your 50+ OWI investigations, have you ever been present for a blood draw before? About how many times?
Probably the majority of those.
So is there a specialized procedure mandated by the state of Michigan and the Michigan State Police in conducting a blood draw for an OWI?
There is.
And how does that procedure start?
So there is, paperwork that, the hospital gives to me that needs to be filled out, one of them being a consent to draw form. I believe there's another, piece of paper as well that I have to fill out there. And then after I do that, that's when I get a Michigan State Police blood kit.
So the initial paperwork you got to fill out, that has nothing to do with the legality of the draw, that's just for the hospital.
Correct, that's just for their own records and mandating.
And the Michigan State Police blood draw kit, what is that?
So it is it's a cardboard box, that has a seal on it, like a sticker seal. And on the inside, there's contents of paperwork, there's the actual blood vial tubes that are contained in the box. And then there's a bag for, at the end, that's where the, actual tubes that come in the cardboard, they go into that bag, and then everything gets sealed into the box, and then you get another sticker, security sticker that you put on the outside.
So just by naming it a Michigan State Police blood draw kit, that kind of begs the question. But do you know who provides these kits and what their nature is across the state?
So we, as the sheriff's office, we keep our blood kits at the hospital.
In other words, so you get them from the hospital.
Correct.
Do you, the sheriff's department, provide them to the hospital?
Yes.
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 And who provides them to the sheriff's department?
I would guess somebody from command, but I'm not sure.
So, Are these standardized across the state, do you know?
They are, everybody in the state of Michigan uses the same kit.
So you obtain the kit in this instance from the emergency room, from the hospital,
Correct.
and they store them for the sheriff's office there.
Yes.
And that's what you did in this case, is that typical?
Yes.
You don't keep the kits in your car?
We do not.
When you obtained the kit in this case, was the kit sealed?
It was.
Did it appear to be in good order?
It did.
No dents, scratches, holes?
Nothing.
Did it appear typical of the kits you've seen in the past?
Yes.
Once you obtain the kit, well, in fact, this is just a demonstrative exhibit. So this is new, deputy. What is that?
This is a Michigan State Police blood kit.
And is that, at least so far, typical of what you would handle in every OWI run?
Yes.
And so, once you obtain it from the hospital, what's the first thing you do?
Well, the first step is to open it up. The kits have an integrity seal that's already on it. This is how all kits come. Can I open it?
Sure.
Oh.
As you do that, deputy, that day, did you break the seal on the kit?
No deputy flunked it that day.
Did he do that in your presence?
He did.
Did he open the box or simply cut the seal?
I believe he took the paperwork out and laid it on the table.
So if you could show the jury then what's inside the kit.
So inside of the kit, sorry, I'm trying to talk on my phone here. Show it. So inside of the kit, this is essentially what it looks like when you open it up. There's a blue piece of paper as an insert. It basically tells you the contents of the kit, what's inside of it. There are these two little plastic vials, which are used for urine sample collection. And in my almost 8 years of law enforcement, I've never collected urine on chemical tests. Also inside the box, there are the blood tubes. They come in this little piece of cardboard. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's like a little bit of powdery type agent in the bottom of the tube. That's essentially to keep the blood fresh. There's 2 tubes. They come like this. The alcohol and drug determination sheet. This is carbon copy paperwork. There's 3 copies. It says on the bottom, the white copy submit with the kit, the yellow copy received by the agency. Just like this. Sorry, there's 2 copies. Carbon copy. One goes with the kit, one gets received by the agency.
And that's paperwork you have to fill out on the scene.
Correct.
What else is in the kit?
There are labels for the specimens. So these labels get filled out by me, and then they get affixed to the side of the blood tubes by the phlebotomist after the draw. Also is a iodine prep pad. This is no alcohol. This is what you do. It's used on the site when the phlebotomist does the draw, just so there's no questions about if and the alcohol used, on that site.
So just to back up to clarify that, so that's an iodine bite that's included in the kit.
Correct.
And that you give that to the person who does the blood draw, the phlebotomist or the nurse.
Yes, sir.
And so that's so that the requirement is met that when the site is sterilized, there's no alcohol use.
Yes, sir.
What else is in the kit?
There is a plastic bag with a big warning label on it. The reason for the big warning label is, you see there is a small piece of almost like cloth in the bag. The reason for this being in the bag is if one of these blood tubes breaks while in this bag, this actual piece of cloth will absorb the blood and it can actually still be tested by the lab. So it's important that this actual piece actually gets left in there.
And what's the big warning label?
So the big warning label, it says important to place blood tube holder containing filled blood tubes along with filled specimen bottles inside Ziploc bag and squeeze out all excess air in closed bag. Note, do not remove liquid absorbing sheet.
Is there any other paperwork in the kit?
There is a shipping seal for when you're done. Box everything back up.
So initially, well, wait the box. So initially, when you arrive, Deputy Flint opens the kit, begins to unpack the paperwork. So
Correct.
specifically the blood alcohol determination.
Correct.
And what do you do with the paperwork?
So at that time, I take the paperwork and I start filling it out.
And where are you physically in the hospital as you're doing this?
So we are in the back of the emergency room, in front of the seclusion room.
Okay. And you just have the kit unpacked on a table outside the seclusion room?
Correct.
And so at this point, you're waiting on someone to come do the blood draw.
Yes.
What happens then?
Well, we wait for the phlebotomist to actually, come down, from upstairs. And, at that time, we get, moved to one of the actual emergency beds, because the nurses and the doctor, they're aware that she actually needs some, medical treatment for her wrist and from just a high collision impact and crash. So we get moved to an emergency room. The phlebotomist meets us at the emergency room and then conducts the blood draw.
Okay. So at some point, you have to pack up the kit and move it to another room.
Correct.
So at that point, the paperwork is filled out and you're just waiting.
Correct.
So you use the demonstrative and you show the jury what's all in the kit, but the specific kit that you have packed in, is there any notable differences between it and the one you unpacked here in court today?
No, all the contents were the same.
Okay. Having done dozens of these before, was there anything about that kit that was dissimilar or incongruous to the kits you've seen before?
It was the same as any other kit I've seen.
Specifically as to the tubes, did you have an opportunity to inspect those?
I did take a look at it. And just like this,
Okay, so the tubes appeared intact,
everything was intact and everything was there.
and they appeared to have the seals intact and the surface.
Correct.
So you had mentioned about the labels that come to go on the tubes. What at the site is done with those?
So at the site, they're filled out by me. And then I typically allow the phlebotomist to fill in the time, just so all the times are consistent with everything.
And so those tubes, those are just glass tubes, they don't have labels on them?
They do have something on them, but to be honest with you, I don't really know what it means. Just some,
Like a small label? that's
Yeah,
already
just a
fixed?
small, it's got some, medical type language on there.
Is that something you can fill out or just something that's already pre-printed?
That's just already on there.
Already pre-printed instructions or forms or something like that?
Yeah. Potassium fluoride.
Alright. And so,
Sodium fluoride, sorry.
you fill out the labels that affix them,
Correct,
and you did that in this case?
correct.
And what kind of information goes on the label?
The label is, the subject's name, it has the date, it has the name of the person that's actually doing the draw, and it has the officer's name, the time and the date.
So you fill out your portion of it and allow the phlebotomist to complete their portion, their name and time.
Correct,
And that's what happened in this case.
yes.
Once the phlebotomist arrived in this case, what did you do with her initially?
Well, provided her with the paperwork and just showed her where I needed her signature or for her to sign.
Does she have her own hospital paperwork?
She does,
And you assisted her with filling that out?
yes,
Because some of that you get a copy of and some of it the hospital gets a copy of.
correct. Her name needs to go on that paperwork.
So at some point, you give the tubes from the kit to the phlebotomist.
I did,
And then you stay with her.
yes,
You stay present during the blood draw. And she conducts her portion of the blood draw.
correct,
Were you able to observe her label the tubes when she completed the draw?
yes.
What time was the draw completed?
I believe it was shortly after 6:30 that day.
As to the actual draw itself, did you observe anything did you observe anything out of the ordinary from other blood draws you've attended? Debbie, what's a FSD 93?
FSD 93. That'd be the alcohol determination form.
If that's the number at the top, you know what that is.
Yes, that'll be this one.
Okay, so that's the paperwork you fill out, to put back in the.
Correct. This goes back in the box. One copy, the other copy, I retain.
And those are standardized throughout the state of Michigan. Correct. They're provided in every kit.
Yes,
So once the phlebotomist completes the draw, you see her label the tubes. Is that correct?
correct.
Do you see her do anything else as it pertains to the draw of the tubes?
She inverted the tubes multiple times.
And what's the purpose of that?
I believe that's something to do with shaking the sediment that's in the tube before placing it back in the holder.
The cardboard holder?
Correct.
At some point, you receive the tubes back from her,
I did.
and you have an opportunity to inspect them again.
I did.
And they still look in order, no scratches, dents, breaks,
They look the same to me as when I got them
except for the blood inside.
for the blood.
What do you do then with the kit?
And then take the tubes that are packaged just like this, go back. They go in the plastic bag that's provided along with that little absorbing sheet. Everything goes back into the kit. The paperwork, iodine pad is already used, so that doesn't go back in.
What about the labels? Are they on the tubes at this point?
They are, they provide 2 sets of labels, so 2 are for urine samples, 2 are for blood samples. And then when everything's back in the kit, when the kit gets closed, and the shipping seal is affixed to the other side.
And that's the opposite side where the initial, you can seal it up for me,
Okay.
And so at this point, it's a little bit after 6:30, you're still at the hospital.
Correct,
This crash was at 3:01.
correct.
What do you do with the kit for the remainder of the time you're at the hospital?
Hang on to them in my possession.
How much longer were you at the hospital, you know?
I believe until shortly after 9 p.m.
Why so long?
Well, the defendant needed to get medical attention on her wrist. She also got x-rays on her head and neck. She got her wrists set a few different times. So it took a while for all that to happen before we could get discharged from the hospital.
And you eventually got discharged a little after 9 p.m.
Correct.
At that point, do you proceed to the sheriff's office
I did.
and defendant's handed off to some other deputy, is that correct?
Correct.
Are you still in possession of the blood kit at that time?
I am.
What's the sheriff's department policy for those, once you get back to the office with one?
So these blood kits get placed into an evidence locker at the sheriff's office, just like any other piece of evidence. There's a wall at the sheriff's office. There's approximately 40 or so evidence lockers. You put the piece of property in there, you close the door. There's a key that's already sticking out of the locker, so you know that locker's open. You can put something in there. I close it, turn the key, and then there's a key slot, and the only person that has access at that time would be who's in charge of our evidence. So we would have a detective department at that time.
Okay. And you did that all with this blood kit?
Correct.
Do you know about what time you would have done that?
I'm not entirely sure.
What time did you leave for the night after a long shift?
Somewhere around 10 or 11, somewhere around there.
So is it fair to say you would have put this in the evidence locker close to immediately after getting back to the sheriff's office?
Yes, as soon as I got there, the defendant was handed off to another deputy. I then proceeded to park the vehicle, go upstairs, place the kit in evidence, and then start on my paperwork.
Okay. Deputy, are you assigned a body worn camera?
I am.
And was that active that day, on April 20th, 2024?
It was.
And was all of this that we've talked about recorded on the body worn?
It was.
Were there any exceptions to the quality or nature of the video?
Yes, at some points the video wasn't muted, but it was still on.
Okay, why was it muted?
There were times during the course of this incident where I was talking to other officers and the camera was muted. It's a mistake of my own. I should have been audio recording the entire time, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the whole incident was recorded with video.
Okay. At some point, do you, later on in the video, do you sit up your code over the video?
Yes,
Okay. And that's toward the end of the video, probably past 8 o'clock.
yes, that's probably somewhere around the medical treatment portion.
Okay. So, Judge, we've broken up Deputy Schmidt's body camera into 4 parts, both for time concerns, relevance, and other issues surrounding admissibility. Exhibit 6A is Deputy Schmidt's time at the scene. 6B, we believe right now is inadmissible, but may become admissible later. And 6C and D document the blood draw. So at this time, I would just move to proper 6D. But have A, C, and D. Yes, that's what he said. But I'm also going to move to A and C without point. They're as I described, but I don't think it has a lot of value in this trial.
Okay.
All right,
A and C are admitted, D may be shown. Thank you.
What was your list? MU perfect, thank you. Yeah. And this, you'll just have to sign and create a name at the time, and draw the dog. We're out of time, just No, I think that's the name of the person that we're on. I was just asking to confirm, is that from this dude? Is that right?
Is it CHIBUSTER?
Yes. And then this is the. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Oh, yeah. This should be on the table. What's that? Yeah.
questions.
Nah, yeah, sorry.
No,
What was your first name? Ron. I'm Steve, nice to meet you. I didn't mention before. That's actually
me too, 30 grand, right?
Here you are, both committee work.
Yeah, nobody's gonna come in.
I feel like I'm kind of just in the middle.
Yeah,
I'm good, I'm good to hear. That's good to hear. We're looking for it. Who's the dog? Let me see which one is longer version. Just so you know, she's just gonna use an iodine swab, just no alcohol or anything. I hate getting my blood around. I hate getting my blood around. I can't look. No. I can't even look. How are you doing? Okay. Later. Good night.
I kind of want to see that though.
Can you? Okay. This is you then.
It's the last 2 weeks of my semester.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. What was that? We all heard it.
So Deputy, as that, I can't not ask, what was that noise throughout that day?
There was somebody in the ER room next to us.
Just another patient vocalizing.
Yes.
And at one point you asked the front desk, who's the doctor? What do you mean by that?
Whoever the doctor in charge of the unit would have been at that time.
Is that because you have a supervising position in your paperwork?
Yes, that needs to go on the search warrant.
And all that, as well as the other portions of your body camera, those are fair and accurate representations of what you saw that day.
Yes,
You had an opportunity to review them
I did.
and review their edits that have been being submitted before today.
Yes.
Move for admission of A, C, and D.
A and C have already been admitted, as to B. Well, 6D is admitted.
And I just note that the foundation for 6B is laid, should it become admissible without recalling that issue.
Okay.
No further discussion.
Cross.
License will go out to the medical session. Deputy, it's detective, right? Correct.
That's all right.
I need to go close at 1%. In your work.
Yes.
We met before, that June 27th of last year, before Judge Brown, during the preliminary examination, right?
Correct.
And I asked you at that time, if you shook, you shaken the vials of blood with a preservative that's at the bottom, I believe you described it as white powder. And your answer, would you agree, was, well, you never shook them?
Correct.
And we noted in one of the reports, or whatever, checklists that are given to you to fill out. You fill out the checklist with regard to the boxes, the draw, or did somebody else fill those out? Did you fill out any forms at all concerning blood?
Yes, hospital forms and.
And then you signed it as the officer in charge of that. Is that correct?
I probably did.
All right. And are you aware that these vials of blood, that they're white powdery substance is a preservative to preserve, so it will get for the blood?
As far as what I know, I'm not a medical professional, but I can agree to that.
And thank you for being honest.
You're welcome.
I'm not a doctor, so it's your understanding that there's a preservative in there, and it's got to be shaken, like that.
Yes.
Okay. And did you ever see, because I just watched the videotape, that's why I got up my eyes at the best, to look too close. Did you ever see anybody, you did, you said, did you see anybody shake it like this?
The phlebotomist inverted on,
And you use the word invert, that she took them and she inverted, correct? That's what it showed at least.
correct, she took them completely upside down.
It looked like there wasn't multiple times. Would you agree with that?
Well, she did directly after and then before putting them back in the,
Did it look like before she put them away that she turned like this?
possibly.
I know you're not a medical person, but you like to follow procedures, correct?
Correct.
And procedure, we took part of is giving them our drug, preservative, and then having it sent to the Michigan State Police toxicology lab, correct?
Correct.
Now, would you agree that if the preservative is not properly mixed, that would cause fermentation?
Objection,
If you don't-
deviation mix not qualified.
Oh, thank you. Now, while you're at the hospital, before you went to the hospital with my client, where was she for those about 3.5 hours?
From the time, from when we left the scene until like the hospital, you mean?
Did you stop at the police station, sheriff's station at all? Did you go straight from the scene, that's on the boat club, to the hospital?
All the scenes in the hospital.
And how long were you at the hospital with when she was there?
A long time.
When you say at least 2 hours or 3 hours?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Did you
Yes.
mark when you arrived at the hospital?
It's our protocol whenever we leave somewhere, we tell dispatch, or we arrive somewhere, we tell dispatch.
There was sort of the document. It's okay. You didn't mark down anywhere on the documents, so there's nowhere to mark out.
No, I did not mark anywhere.
Why did it take so long to get this blood draw that we watched?
So, obviously going back to the scene, after she was in custody. First off, I wanted to make sure that all of my fellow officers that were on the scene, all the medical personnel were taken care of, they needed help when I could leave.
No, I'm sorry. What I meant was, once you got to the hospital, you were at the hospital for 2-3 hours.
Correct.
Okay. Why did you get a blood test right then and there when you did that?
So, I needed to fill out the paperwork for the search warrant.
You did that while you were at the hospital?
Yes, I was seated in my vehicle.
I just, of course, we weren't there, so that's why I'm asking so many questions, trying to get this back together. But reply those 2-3 hours, I'm looking at a short tape, and it looks like that's when you just walked right in.
No, we were there for a few hours.
Okay, all right, both in your patrol car and then inside the hospital.
Yes, sir.
And was my client getting any treatment for foot or arm injuries?
She did, after the blood draw was completed.
At the hospital, right?
Correct.
Now, after you arrived and you were going to get to the hospital and start filling out the paperwork, or the search warrant paperwork, affidavit and so forth, why would you go back to the sheriff's office and do, commonly known as, or formerly known as, master breathalyzer? It's usually do for people suspected of drug. Why wouldn't you take her for that too?
For this case, with the serious injuries that were potentially had there, my client wanted to make sure that we did a blood draw.
Okay. But why wouldn't you do the breathalyzer? Did you say you do breathalyzer about 90% of the time? Are people suspicious of drug?
No, a majority of my chemical tests are in blood.
Okay. Is it because people refuse the breathalyzer?
Sometimes they refuse, sometimes they're not compliant. There's variable circumstances that it could be.
But if you read that, you said DI 177, my friend.
Correct.
If you read that, it says, take a breathalyzer, urine test, or blood test, or else you will lose your license. Is that correct? Well, that's
Correct.
right to read.
Somewhere
In a synopsis.
in a synopsis.
All right. And you read that to her,
Correct.
and she said, yes, I'll take, whatever test, whatever you wanted her to do.
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't file a Secretary of State refusal or any of that stuff?
No.
She was very cooperative, correct?
Yes, she was
And
cooperative.
she was understanding what you were asking her to say to her, correct?
Yes.
And so again, why wouldn't you take her first for the breathalyzer to involve into the case, two samples? And then take her for water. I don't know if he fully answered the judge, I'm just gonna ask you.
I'm not a sustaining objection. He did answer. He said the policy of fatalities was to take this.
Now, after you received the blood, you put it in this, what do you call that?
Just to say, please blood kit.
Blood kit, all right, once you put it back in the blood kit box, did you refrigerate it?
No.
Do you, now this camera that's, muted, it wasn't muted during the last film that we watched, correct?
I think there might have been parts where it was at once.
Was it muted at the time you were at the scene?
It was.
Why would you, mute your, audio?
At that time, I was having some conversations with other officers.
And you didn't want anyone to know?
Objection, I don't think he finished the.
Oh, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
What is it?
I was having private conversations with other officers at the scene.
And you didn't want anybody to hear what those private conversations were, correct?
Well, there's no policy against muting our cameras.
Oh, so there's no policy with the Monroe County Sheriff that you can mute or shut off your camera anytime you want?
Shut up. While we're still having citizen contact, we still have to have our cameras on.
So you can mute anytime you feel it's proper, or anytime that you want to mute it. You can mute it.
A camera can be muted, yes. But it still stays on.
The camera still stays on, but it's muted.
Correct.
And how do you mute on this body?
There's a button on the side that you hold down and it needs to.
So it's something of an intentional act.
Yes.
When you were, at the time that this took place, that you were investigating, were you an officer, was it 7 or 8 years?
Just under 8 years. My 8-year mark will be May of this year.
And you were, an officer for 5 years in the city of Riverview?
No, about 8 to 9 months at the city of Riverview.
And that was, during the probation period of time of 12 months?
Correct.
And is there any reason why, you, left or were terminated after 9 months?
No, actually, I left on my own accord there.
And was that an agreement that you would, sign papers that you would leave on your own?
Yes.
Now, as to these, sobriety tests that you spoke of, earlier, there's the national highway ones, correct, that are approved, right?
Yes.
Are you familiar at all with, any law or, field laws, that says that the, dexterity test, the finger pencil test in front of the eye, is not as accurate.
Objection, calls for the
Oh,
legal opinion. It's a
oh,
question,
sorry.
it's a test that he didn't testify to be.
You gave the alphabet test, correct?
Correct.
And the purpose of the alphabet test is to see if somebody, their sobriety and level of sobriety, correct?
Correct.
And my client completed the alphabet test completely, clearly, understandably, with no problem, correct?
Correct.
And you told that in the report, correct?
Correct.
And was your camera on to record, excuse me, was the voice on or was it muted at that time?
It was on. It was muted at that time.
It was what?
It was muted at that time.
The video was on, but it was muted. So any documentation to back up that she completed the alphabet, we don't have that other than your testimony, correct?
Correct. And I,
Okay. Now, the numbers, did you ask her, my client, to count from 1 to 100?
no,
You asked her to count backwards from 100, was it to 88? Is that a guess?
yes, sorry.
And you said the first time she counted 100 to what?
91.
And could you understand her?
At that time, yes.
Okay, she wasn't slurring, correct?
Had that I recall.
And that would be something you put down in a report as a trained officer, correct? Observations.
Yes.
And I presume your report is honest, correct? Yes. And now, you knew that my client was just involved in a major collision, correct? Okay. And you knew from investigating when you got there that my client went through the wall and went about 25 feet into the location of the Swan Boat Club, correct? Correct. Okay. Now, do you think that would shake anybody up a little bit?
Objection, calls for speculation. Response.
Have you, I'll ask, I'll withdraw that and then lay it on you.
Okay.
Thank you. You've investigated many accidents, correct? As a patrol officer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've investigated major collisions, I presume, correct? Correct. Okay. And after somebody, in your experience, after somebody has been in a major collision or mid-collision or major, do they seem shaken up at all?
Yes, at times I did.
Do you consider this a major collision? Now, you said that you didn't give my client the one length scan test. Is that when you asked somebody that you're investigating to raise their one leg off the ground, maybe 5-6 inches, and hold it and count maybe 1,000, 2,000 to 9 or 10?
Correct. It's up to 30, but it's the same.
So then you say keep counting till it's right side.
Correct.
You know, you didn't give that based upon her,
Correct. I just didn't feel she was safe to be able to complete that test without potentially falling or herself.
you have no proof that my client doesn't have a problem, correct?
Objection, it's a double negative. You
Well-
asked that question correctly.
He wants a double.
Oh, thank you. Do you have any proof that she has a problem?
At that time,
Yes.
at that time, I did not.
Do you now believe she has a problem?
I haven't seen her since. I don't know.
Have you seen her walk?
Today, I have not seen her walk.
Now, the walk and turn. Is that when you ask a person that you're investigating believing they may have consumed alcohol. To put their heel to the front of their toe of their shoe, and walk like that, one behind the other, for 90 steps.
Correct.
Okay. And then you ask them to turn around and then do 90 steps back, correct?
Yes. To take a small series of steps and get themselves turned around and then 9 back towards the start.
Okay. And you didn't ask my client to take that because of her safety, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't want her to fall down, correct?
Correct.
And she was able to understand all of your directions, correct?
Yes.
She told you what her name was, correct?
Correct.
Did she or did you know that she was a former commodore of the World Club?
I have no idea.
Now, when you took her to the hospital, was she unruly in your car at all?
No.
Do you have cameras that sort of flip around and report somebody in the back?
Unfortunately, our county police cars, we don't have in-vehicle cameras.
You don't have dash cams?
No. We just have body cameras that are fixed to us.
So she was not unruly in the backseat of the car, correct, while you were transporting her?
She was cooperative.
She was making a lot of noise, screaming, yelling, none of that craziness, right?
No.
Was she falling asleep in the backseat?
I don't recall.
Okay, was she vomiting in the backseat?
No.
Did she vomit in the hospital?
No.
You had mentioned that earlier, I was asking about it. Did she urinate on herself in the patrol car?
No.
And you said that's the one other thing you should look at is vomiting, urination on her clothes or in her clothes.
Absolutely.
And the higher the alleged blood alcohol content is, the more people do these things. Would you agree? Such as urinate, their bodily control is not there.
Well, I think everybody has their own alcohol tolerance up to a point.
Well, would you agree from all of your arrests that you've done or investigations, that usually urination, vomiting, it occurs when somebody's ingested a lot of alcohol than just a little bit?
Yes.
How long did it take you to obtain a search warrant from the time you arrived for the investigation?
I don't recall the exact amount of time.
Your past history as a patrol officer, when you pull somebody over of suspicion of drug crime, and you want to get a search warrant done, are they usually done like within an hour?
Yeah, I would say for the most part that's pretty accurate.
And this was 6:30 in the evening, correct?
Correct.
And the magistrate or judge is usually at home and it's sent to him or her, correct?
Correct.
And then they review it, they sign it, and then they send it back to you,
Correct, via email.
and then you give it to the hospital.
Yes.
And sometimes that's done within, would you say 45 minutes, an hour?
Yeah, sometimes that's about right.
Is some of the statements in the affidavit sort of fill in the blank?
Yes.
When you approached my client inside the vehicle, did you see a cane that she uses for walking?
I don't recall.
Do you know if the airbags went off?
I don't recall.
Do you think airbags that go off or a collision into a wall, in your experience of patrol officer investigating accidents, do you think that running into a wall and going 25 feet inside a building, that type of collision, sometimes people don't have all the faculties immediately afterwards.
Objection, calls for speculation.
In his history, Your Honor, you know, he's investigated accidents.
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, when you arrived at the scene, it was some confusion going on. You agree? I mean, we saw tapes earlier yesterday. It looked, I don't mean to use the word craziness, but it was crazy what was going on, right? I mean, there were tables all over, there's a vehicle inside, people are injured, 2 little children are severely injured, or critically injured. It was chaos.
It was the most chaotic scene in my almost any year career.
And I'm sorry you didn't go through that, you were involved in it. So, do you agree that the containers, were those little like, red solo cups that they serve, or did they serve something else with those? In other words, were there any containers that looked like at one time they had fluid in it, and they're all over the place, food's everywhere, there's containers to drink.
Sorry. Are you
Judge,
talking
I'm
about-
sorry, one, it's a student tax, not an evidence, I don't know what Mr. Clovis is talking
You know, Judge,
Hang on,
I would
objection.
I was gonna say,
You're gonna withdraw it?
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you. When you arrived on the scene of the Swanville, it was shortly after 3 o'clock, correct? On April 20th, 24. Was everything in disarray?
From what I saw, yes.
You just talked about probably the most horrific
Yes.
scenes.
Correct.
And was there food and cups all over?
So I never actually made it into the bar area.
How about where the tables were?
I don't even recall where the tables were in that building.
Because it was so chaotic or so messy, for lack of a better word. And I'm just going by, the prosecutor showed some tapes yesterday and trying to refresh, or, you know, talk about it verbally. Did you ask the hospital while you were there with this blood kit, to take additional blood from my client and have it tested by the hospital?
No, I did not.
And then, what was the date that, this kit expires?
I do not recall.
So you don't know if it was expired or not, correct?
Well, if the hospital had it there, then it would have been up to date.
Police department, the hospital has it there, so they do no wrong, it's got to be up to date, is that correct?
Oh, that's not.
Objection, calls for speculation.
Well, it's
They're not
just-
connected.
I think he testified he doesn't know, so that answers the question.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Very well.
Thank you all.
You direct.
Thank you, Judge. So, Debbie, I'm going to show you this form. This is just another FSD 93, like the one you packed in the kit. Is that identical to the same type of form?
Yes, this is the exact same one.
Okay. So that's a carbon pack, but it's also a two-sided form, is that right?
Correct.
So on the front is information you fill out. What's on the back?
So the back is the form instructions for the FSD 093, which is this one.
Okay, and toward the middle of the page, it says guidelines.
Yes.
And it says
Objection, Your Honor, this isn't part of the examination, right? He's going outside. He's already had his chance to ask these questions.
Response.
this is in response to Mr. Clovis's going down the road of, did you shake your bodies?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
So there's instructions that are titled to the medical professional physician, is that right? Correct. Do any of those pertain to what to do with the preservative in the eyes?
Yes.
Which one? I believe it's number 2 or 3.
So 2 is struck 2 tubes of venous blood from subject in the presence of a law enforcement officer until the subject in the officer's presence that no alcohol was used in sterilizing the skin surface, needle, or syringe.
And what about the next one?
3 is slowly invert blood sample tubes enough times to distribute the sodium fluoride, potassium oxalate precipitate.
And that's the instructions for that on the state form, is that right? Correct. So it's not shake the tube 3 times, or you're ordered to shake the tube, or there's any statute that requires you to do that, right? No. I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry, but Mike is, no.
Okay. And then that's not something you would do anyway, that's something with the bodies.
Correct. I've never done that once on a OWI blood draw.
And you saw the Pilates do it in this case.
Yes.
So you're satisfied with the guidelines on the back of that form?
Objection, that's for the jury.
No, it's not a legal conclusion or a factual conclusion. It's, he has to make sure those guidelines are applied before he leaves the hospital.
I think the question is he satisfied? I'll overrule the objection and take the answer whether he's satisfied.
I was satisfied with the conclusion of that.
So as to the timelines Mr. Columbus was getting into, once you arrive at the hospital to check in, do you have any authority over those folks?
No.
Is it fair to say that you were at the mercy of the hospital as to when that trial gets concluded?
Yes.
Were you that bad?
Yes.
Mr. Columbus asked you if you asked for the hospital to draw her blood and independently test it for you. Have you ever done that in your 9-year career?
No, not in my 8-year career, I have not.
Do you know if the hospital will do that for you?
I don't know.
Do you know of any officer who has ever asked the hospital to do that? And be successful?
Objection is irrelevant to what the court officers do.
I'm going to sustain that.
Fair enough. As to your body camera deputy, throughout the course of the day, you muted and unmuted this, I think you testified to. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you indicated under cross-exam with Mr. Clovis that was to have private conversations, is that correct?
Yes.
When you say that, what generally do you mean by private conversation?
Well, in terms of that scene there, more or less trying to figure out from the other officers what I need to do, what they're currently doing, things that I don't believe are necessarily relevant to public.
And so those are more, so what you're saying is those are more, not administrative, but course of conduct type of conversations with fellow officers.
Correct.
So when you say private conversation, you're not talking about each other's significant others in the scene.
No, we're talking about the scene and what needs to be done and where we're at with it.
Mr. Clovis asked you if in a crash like that, you think somebody would get quote unquote shaken up by the crash. Did the defendant appear shaken up to the crash, shaken up by the crash to you?
Besides the injuries that she sustained, there was no other indication that she was shaken up in the crash.
Mr. Clovis also asked you as to the sobriety testing and things like that, if the defendant followed all of your instructions. As to the horizontal gazing stagnance, did she follow all of your instructions?
She was not able to focus on my stimuli, which is part of the instructions.
Okay. Did she turn her head to attempt to follow your finger?
Yes,
Is that part of the instructions?
yes,
Did she follow that part?
no,
No further redirect question.
We probably say. Now, you stated earlier, officer, that my client had a test, was it a CAT scan?
Objection? No, he didn't.
Okay. Had she came in for head injuries at all? Imagine that.
yes,
So then, and you asked her to do what type of test, and she wasn't able to follow. What type of test was that?
eye test,
And she wasn't able to totally focus clearly after the accident.
she was
that
not,
test.
I'm sorry, what?
To do that test, she wasn't able to clearly focus to do that test after the accident.
Objection calls for speculation.
Was she able to do it?
That's a fair question, go ahead.
She wasn't able to complete the test.
All right, they just
People are satisfied, you can step down, we ask that he's, subpoena is still active.
Okay.
You can call for
All right, which means you cannot stay. You're all set.
I also asked, if people indicate that he also has.
Yes. Yes, absolutely will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take our morning break. I'm gonna ask.
All right, so part one is done. Part one is done. Not much. I don't know if we really learned much. It was more procedural than like testimony of what happened. I'm very aggravated with the defense attorney. I know he's doing his job, but some of the questions that he asks are just, I don't know, not great. So we're gonna go into, let's see, so this is one, it's about an hour and a half, the part two. So we're gonna watch this and then we will wrap things up. Nanny, this, I'm actually a day behind, so this was yesterday's testimony. So tomorrow we will get to today's testimony and then, so I'm just a day behind. Yeah. But it started Monday and I had already had my live scheduled for the strikes, correctional officer strikes in New York. So I started it Tuesday. All right, so here we go. Day 2, part 2. So we'll finish up day 2 today.
How long do you have that position? And do you have all the training, certification, and education necessary to be a police officer in the state of Michigan? And were those all in place on April 20th of last year? Were you working that day?
No, I was called
Okay, why were you called into work?
I am an ethics sergeant at the sheriff's department, and I'm in charge of the evidence department.
And where were you called into specifically?
Swan.
And that's located in Berlin Township, Newport, Michigan County, Monroe. You responded to the Swan Boat Club, and once you got there, did you receive an assignment?
Yes, my job as an evidence scientist to take pictures of the crime scene for police report.
Did you take photos while you were there?
Yes.
Take photos of the scene,
Yes.
and you also took some of the MEI photos, is that correct?
Yes.
For the jury, what does MEI stand for?
Medical examiner investigator.
And what is that?
The detectives are trained, and some of our deputies are trained, to examine bodies for, free medical exam for the autopsy.
And those photos go to the medical examiner eventually. And so you took both photos of the scene and photos of the kids who had passed away. And you've had an opportunity since to review those photos,
Yes.
and they're a fair and accurate depiction of what you saw at the scene that day. So Judge, people are gonna move to admit People's 8. That's 8A to 8 quadruple N. That's 8 N, 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 N. Photos taken by Deputy Martin at the scene of the Swan Boat crash. People would note for the record that although she did take MEI photos, we are not submitting those to the jury.
Sir, I would just have maybe 15 seconds to confirm. He is all fired from this building. No objection, Your Honor.
People's 8A through 8 quadruple N are admitted.
Thank you, Judge. And we don't intend to publish these at this time, but just for the jury upon deliberation. Deputy, or detective, I'm sorry, you're also assigned to run the evidence in the sheriff's office, is that right? And so you deal with blood samples from OWI investigations on a regular basis, is that right? What does the sheriff typically do when a blood kit from an OWI investigation comes into the evidence room?
So the deputy collects it, puts it into our evidence lockers. They're secure evidence lockers. Make sure.
Your Honor, I would object to this. It would be irrelevant as to what sometimes they do. It would be, in this case, what was done.
It is to show the conformity of procedure of this case with typical procedure.
I think it is a procedural issue, the objection is overruled.
So our evidence lockers, we have a hallway that is open to the deputies. There's 56 lockers. Each one has a key and it's secured. Each lock is keyed differently. So when the deputy collects sample or any piece of evidence, they get into our computer software, describe the evidence item, toxicology kit, whatever it is. And then there's a section that's called temporary evidence locker. They, the computer tells you which lockers are open. They select the locker. They then walk to the hallway. Confirm that that locker is open by having a key. They drop it in the locker, lock it, and then they put the key in the locker in one. So they'll select the keys. And then the other property room has those same lockers on the other side. The only people that have keys to the evidence room was at the time myself and Captain Raymond. I was responsible for the daily activities of that and those lockers. So every day I'd come in, like, tell you where the items are. Open the locker, on the inside of the evidence room, running up with the evidence that was there. And then the toxicology kits, they would typically check it in the computer. I would look from temporary storage to external out of service, or not out of service, out of custody, and I put it in the mail.
Is that what, so are you familiar with the toxicology kit from this case?
Yes.
And up to what you've described, are all those procedures followed to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And, but did you place that toxicology kit in the mail?
So this one did not go into the mail.
What did you do with this kit?
Deputy Krieger came to me and said that he was going to personally drive it to the lab.
Okay. Does the Monroe County Sheriff's Office refrigerate toxicology kits? In your 19 years employed by the Sheriff's Office, have you ever known them to do so?
No.
Okay, no further questions to this.
Cross?
Do you know if the state refrigerates the toxicology of blood? Do you know if the state, once they obtain it, that they refrigerate it?
I do not know if it's
That's good. I didn't know if you had any experience with that one. I don't have any other questions.
It is what it takes to do.
From the people,
Yes.
yes, please.
Does we call Lieutenant Ryan Sicily?
I solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Lieutenant, would you state your name and then spell your last name for the record, please?
Ryan Sicily, SOTCIO.
Lieutenant, how are you employed?
Very well, I work for the North Insurance Office.
How long have you been in that role?
20 years.
Any prior law enforcement experience?
No.
And do you hold all of the trainings, education, certifications necessary to be police officer in the state of Michigan?
Yes.
And were those up to date on April 20th?
Yes.
Were you working on April 20th, 2024?
No, I was not.
You were off duty on that day?
Yes.
Were you called in?
Yes, I was.
Why were you called in?
I got a call because I operate on a drone. So I got a call from the sheriff. Advising me against me. We needed the drone out of the scene.
What does the drone do?
It's a small unmanned aerial vehicle. It flies in the air, remote controller, and screen on it. Has a camera, has infrared camera. And a suit.
So you take photos with it?
Yes.
Does it take video too?
These videos and
And on April 20th, were you sent to the Swan Boat Club?
yes, I was.
Is that to take photos with the drone?
Yes.
And do you know about the time you would have arrived?
We arrived at scene at about just before 5 p.m.
How long after the crime?
Yes.
And the defendant no longer on the scene. And on that day, did you deploy the drone and take photos of the Swan Boat Club surrounding areas?
Yes, I did.
How does, just briefly begin, how's that?
Take the drone out of the box, some assembly required, put the battery in it, put the blades out, turn it on, turn my remote control on, my controller on. It runs a self check, it grabs GPS, make sure it knows where it's at, before it'll fly. And then, two levers and it takes off.
Do you decide what photos it takes? Does it just snap automatically or
There's on the controller, I can push configure, take photos. I also can set it up to automatically take photos while it's flying.
What did you do on that day?
I did them both. I had a fly pattern, take a bunch of pictures just with a mosaic if we needed it, and then I manually took different pictures at different positions over the scene.
How do you get the photos off of the drone?
The camera is mounted on the drone, and there's a micro SD card on the camera. So once the drone comes back to the ground, I pull the micro SD card out, and then I insert it into a computer. I take the pictures off of the
Did you have an opportunity to review those pictures?
Yes, I did.
And are they fair and accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes, sir.
Judge, people are going to move to admit 9A through 9BBB, that's 9BD. Two or three were previously admitted, they are just the airborne photos. I don't know.
Okay. People's 9A through 9DD are in
DDD.
the DDD. Yep, thank you.
Lieutenant, there's also going to be proper 9K. To the jury. Second, this is a photo you took. I said, sorry, Lieutenant, this is a photo you took.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and this is the pavilion, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Where is the next home located in Providence, Citizens?
I'm not 100% sure. I always on the street.
Okay. And, I'm going to offer Judge. Lieutenant, can you tell me what this is?
It's say a picture of the pavilion or where the party at, there's a hole inside the building.
The hole is where the defendant's vehicle entered.
Yes.
What are these right here?
It's like pieces from the building or pieces of the building.
Are these telephone?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's also just, yeah, that's all.
Okay. To your knowledge, the defendant's car passed between those two poles.
I believe so, yes.
And,
Objection, Your Honor. Where's the foundation of how he believes that happened?
could I ask if you have knowledge?
Either he has knowledge or he doesn't. The objection.
And, also number 9LL. This is just a close-up of the same telephone poles you took this photo.
Yes, sir.
I have a quick question.
Mr. Cross, are you moving to admit HH and LL?
Typically, they were already admitted all through that stack we just gave you. I'm just
Oh.
polishing the jury.
All right,
Thank you.
Cross.
No.
All right, thank you. Next witness.
Judge Bates, would you excuse?
Yes.
Thank you. We call Detective Jeff.
Sounding switch for the testimony or back to you in this matter of the court, shall we listen to the most recent about this testimony back?
Detective, would you state your full name and spell your last name, please?
Jeff Hooper, Hooper. I apologize for calling that place. This is your from issue a couple weeks ago.
All right, no problem. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, how are you employed?
I am currently the sergeant for the Detective Bureau of the American Insurance Office.
And what does that mean? What does it mean? I'm sorry.
So I supervise the detectives and the investigations that come through the sheriff's office.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been in law enforcement now for 24 years.
Is all of that within the Roman Sheriff's Office?
Yes,
And you hold all the training, education, certification necessary to be a certified peace officer in the state of Michigan?
I do.
And that was all up to date on April 20th, 2024?
It was.
Were you working on April 20th, 2024?
I was not.
Were you called in?
I was.
And on that day, were you the sergeant?
I was.
And how long have you been a detective?
I've been doing investigation now for approximately 10 years. About 9 of that is detective and then 1 year as a supervisor.
Were you involved in the investigation at Swan Boat Club on April 20th?
I was.
Is that in the supervisor role?
Yes.
How did you become aware of the crash?
I received a phone call from Lieutenant Zemek requesting assistance with the investigation.
You know, approximately time you would have arrived?
I arrived approximately about an hour and a half after the initial crash, I believe.
4:30 then
Yeah,
approximately?
4:30, 4:45.
Was the defendant still on scene when you got there?
No,
What did you observe when you arrived at the Swan Boat Club?
just chaos. There are a lot of investigators there, starting to do the investigation, different aspects of the investigation, whether taking pictures or doing, various things.
And did you at some point enter the Swan Boat Club?
I did.
And how did you enter it?
So I entered through a little breezeway that was kind of to the left of where the car had entered the building.
At some point, did you enter the main building?
Yes.
And why did you enter the main building?
We learned that there is video surveillance, and I was meeting with somebody to get that video surveillance.
Somebody from the boat club gave you access to their surveillance?
Yes,
Did you, so were you involved in executing a search warrant of defendant's home?
yes.
And do you recall when that was executed?
Monday, so I believe that would have been 22nd, I believe.
April 22nd, 2024? Yes. 2 days after.
Yes.
And what were you looking for in the search warrant?
Specifically, DVR with video footage of, around the defendant's house.
Surveillance video from the defendant's home.
Yes,
And did you locate any cameras during the execution of that warrant?
we did.
And how many did you locate?
4,
Do you recall where they were?
yes.
Where were they?
There was one on a barn that was across the street from the main residence. There was one on a garage on the same side of the road as the residence, kind of facing down, facing the car. Then there was a camera that was facing the door of the main entrance of the residence. And then there was also one in the kitchen of the residence.
Did you discover what those cameras were connected to?
Yes.
Can you describe what that was?
So it's a digital video recorder, or DVR, which stores the video footage.
Where did you locate that DVR?
It was located upstairs, I'd say like a utility room with various other things in it.
Inside the defendant's home?
Yes,
Was it functional on that day?
yes,
Did it appear to be recorded?
yes,
Were you able to determine if it was connected to the cameras that you found?
yes.
How did you go about that?
So basically, I looked at the video footage that was currently being recorded, and it was my detectives doing searches, the cars on the driveway, and so it was like that.
What was the manner of recording?
So the manner of recording, it was via Wi-Fi, it wasn't hardwired to the DVR, so it was.
Do the cameras record 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
No, we later learned that the cameras were motion activated.
Did the video recording have timestamp on
It did,
it? Were you able to check it for accuracy?
yes.
How did you do that?
So when you're on scene, when you're looking at a DVR playing live, what you basically do, what I do is I pull out my phone, look at the time on my phone, look at the timestamp on the video, and compare the difference.
Did you find it to be accurate?
No,
What was different about it?
so that one specifically was an hour slow. So if it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon on that DVR, it would show 2 o'clock.
The DVR would show 2 p.m.
Yes,
The timestamp would show 2 p.m.
yes,
Do you have experience with video recording devices similar to what you found in the defendant's home?
yes.
Can you briefly or tell me your experience with that?
So when I'm doing investigations for 10 years, there's always a large surveillance aspect to investigations. And so by doing those for 10 years, I would go out to various businesses and utilize, with their permission, utilize the export functions on DVRs. And if you use it, most DVRs are similar in nature to how you get the video off of it. So
Did you seize that DVR?
we did.
And were you able to examine it in terms of the recording on April 20th, 2024?
Yes,
It wasn't.
yes, it was.
Did you find video pertinent to around the time of the crash?
Yes, we did.
And were you able to extract any copies of those videos?
Yes,
And you were able to access video?
yes,
Did you review that surveillance video?
yes.
And is this a copy of the recordings?
Yes,
Not all of the recordings, correct? Just what was purchased around the time of the accident?
correct.
Do you know what camera this video is from? What cameras, if it's more than one?
I know, depending on the video, I believe it's the one from across the street on the barn, showing the car leaving the residence.
Judge, we're going to move to admit exhibit 11. That's first, and publish first.
Responsible.
Your Honor. You need to publish.
Sure.
Yes, Judge, this is.
You may go ahead and play.
I was just going to say, Your Honor, we had a sidebar on the on the record reflect that I consent.
what's the timestamp on that video?
Currently on the screen shows, 2 PM, 2:01,
And in your reviewing it, what time you actually moved back to the,
3:01,
which, does that correspond with the time that you had crashed into something?
yes.
And in your role as executive in this case, do you know what time that crash occurred? We saw that Club?
Yes, it's right around, I believe it's 3 o'clock and like 50-some seconds, somewhere right around there.
In your investigation, did you discover any other crashes the defendant was involved in on April 20th?
Yes,
What did you discover?
so through this video, we learned that the defendant had crashed excuse me, into her neighbor's truck with enough force to push it back over a fence.
Do you know approximately how far she pushed that truck?
I didn't measure it, I guess maybe 20 feet.
Is that the truck you can barely see the corner of the video?
Yes, and then also off the screen there, there was a little pine tree that just to the right, if it would have been in front of the truck on the side of the road, that she also crashed into.
I know it's off screen, but are you saying it would have been over here off screen?
Yes.
Or on this side of the street over here?
Across the street.
Right here? On
Yes.
this side of the street with this truck?
Yes.
So she crashed into a pine tree,
Yes,
and then she crashed into the neighbor's truck,
yes,
and then she crashed into someone.
yes.
In your investigation, were you able to determine approximately how far the next home is from Swanville Club?
Just by using Google Maps, approximately 550 yards. I'm sorry, 550 feet.
560 feet.
550 feet.
Judge, we would ask you to show on the screen 9, please. Detective, is defendant's home on this street?
Yes,
It is where I'm highlighting,
yes.
and what is this across the street?
The barn where the cameras.
And so the neighbor drive would have been on this side, on the other side, right, just on the screen?
Yes,
So I'm going to move to public exhibit 9, double ZZZ. And, Detective, do you know what this photo is?
yes,
And can you see Defense home in this photo?
yes.
Can you describe the jury where Defense home is located?
So it would have been, it's towards the bottom of the photograph, that house right there.
This is their home,
Yes,
and this is the garage across the street you referred to?
correct.
Is this the neighbor's vehicle that she crashed into?
Yes, it is.
And that's the fence you described?
Yes,
Did you, were you involved in an interview with the defendant?
I was.
When did that occur?
That occurred on the day after the crash.
So that was when?
21st?
Sunday, April 21st?
Yes,
Where did you conduct that interview?
at the North Carolina Sheriff's Office.
And who was present during that interview?
It was myself and Detective Monowitz.
And was it recorded?
It was,
And he reviewed that recording.
yes,
Is it accurate representation of the interview?
yes,
Has it been edited to your knowledge?
no,
No. Were portions that are inadmissible taken out for jury review?
yes.
Judge, we will move to admit exhibit 10 that we do not intend to proffer to the jury at this time. Judge, it is hours long, and
You've never seen this?
we provided defendant months ago.
I don't know, I understand that, we provided it, but I don't know if that's the same one that I've seen. I don't mind tonight looking at it, and then in the morning, Your Honor, I can consent or object if it's not the same. I can't just do something final, sort of. And I don't mind putting the hours in tonight after work.
Judge has a copy on his desk, Judge, I'll reserve this witness, we can bring it back up tomorrow.
All right, we'll do that.
Thank you, Judge. If your representation is wrong, sorry.
Judge, no further questions this time, obviously, we're going to hold this one.
Understood. Cross.
Is it Sergeant?
Yes,
And you're a detective, correct?
yes,
And you were a detective at April 20th.
yes.
Were you the one primarily in charge of the case?
No, it was a team effort, on behalf of a lot of sheriff's office personnel. Just kind of coordinated that.
Thank you. Now, you executed a search warrant at my client's home at about, would you say about 3:12 in the afternoon? On April 22nd, 24th.
I'm not sure of the exact time. I thought it was possibly before lunch. I'm not certain.
The records, at least the ones I've looked at, say about 3 o'clock or after 3. Could that be wrong?
I haven't seen those records. My recollection is a little bit earlier than that.
And are you aware of me filing my appearance for the prosecutor's office?
Objection, Your Honor, how was it?
I'm asking you, John.
What is it?
Can I ask the question?
Well, the question is whether it's relevant or not, when you filed your appearance.
Well, because I was never contacted and I want to confirm to the record of when I filed my appearance, if you can say yes or no.
The objection is sustained. Next question.
If you don't mind, I ask the prosecutor if you could queue up the second picture that was taken. I appreciate it. May I walk over there?
Sure.
All
All right, don't you speak up.
right, I will. Could you go back to the one prior to this, please?
Talking about this one?
Prior to that, or, you know,
Are you asking for the video or the picture?
no, there was a still picture. There was a still picture and you had said in the upper right-hand corner, or was that the actual video, but it looked like a still picture? So that's all right.
Hold on just a moment. You're referring to this?
Yes, thank you very much. Officer, can you see?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And I'm not so tall, but there's a tree about right here. Would you agree?
Yes, there's a plan.
Okay. And this video that you obtained from my client's home security camera, does the original one show that tree? In other words, this goes back, let's say on this screen, 4 inches or 5 inches. So you looked at the original one.
The video that I extracted was given to the prosecutor's office. That's what, yes.
That's what, that there was a tree?
Yeah, there was a tree. Not in the video that I saw. No.
Is this a duplicate of the original that you took from my client's home?
It's, original, yeah,
This is the original.
yes.
You didn't make a copy for the prosecutor, and that's what's being shown.
I extracted the video, put it on some media, and then put it into the evidence locker.
When you say extracted, what do you mean by that?
So when you extract the media, you go through the DVR, say what videos you'd like to export, and then you put them on some sort of media, whether that be a flash drive, a thumb drive, a pocket drive. And then that is then placed into the visual evidence locker of the sheriff's office.
You have somebody that was trained in IT, or did you handle this yourself?
I did it myself.
I don't have any other questions.
Redirect.
Detective, does this video appear the same as how you originally saw it?
Yes,
Did you make any changes or alterations to the video?
I did not.
No.
You follow
No, Your Honor.
up. Next.
We're gonna call Deputy Burkhart, I think he's sure enough to finish before lunch.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Deputy, if you would state your name and then spell your last name for us, please.
Deputy Nicholas Burkhart, B-U-R-K-H-A-R-T.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Deputy, what do you do for a living?
I'm currently employed by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you held that?
I was hired in April of 2006.
You have all the training, certifications, and education necessary to be a peace officer in the state of Michigan.
I did,
Those are up to date today,
yes, sir.
and they were up to date on April 20th of last year.
They were.
What's your assignment in the sheriff's department?
I'm currently assigned to our department's civil division. At the time of this incident, I was assigned to our department's traffic services division.
Could you explain to the folks up here what traffic services is?
The traffic services division is a unit of the sheriff's office that responds to traffic crashes that involve critical injuries or fatalities.
So for lack of a better term, you folks do accident reconstruction and crash investigations.
That is correct.
Were you working on April 20th of last year?
I was.
And were you dispatched to a scene that brought you here to testify?
I was. At the time of this incident, when it occurred, I was handling a separate injury traffic crash at Monroe Township, and I responded to this incident after that one was completed.
Okay. What did you do where did you respond?
So I responded to the Swan Boat Club, and then upon my arrival, I began taking preliminary photographs of the scene. I also was assisting other deputies on the scene.
Was your primary assignment in the role to which you were assigned, traffic services investigation?
Yes, it was.
And to that end, you took photos of the scene.
I did.
Did you also oversee the extrication of the vehicle from the building?
Yes, I was present when the vehicle was removed from the building. And then I followed the vehicle after it was taken from the building to an inside storage location in Jamestown.
You answered my next question. It was towed by Jamestown
Correct.
and stored there at their tow yard.
Yes, it was stored at an inside lot facility.
So you took your photos of the scene before the vehicle was removed?
Correct. I took additional scene photographs prior to the vehicle being removed. Yes.
And then did you take any photos back at Jamestown?
I did on the 22nd of April. I returned and took additional photographs.
Debbie, this is what's been marked equals 13A to PP. You've seen these photographs before,
Yes, sir.
and these are a fair and accurate representation of what you saw at the scene and of the vehicle back in the tow yard.
Yes, sir.
No objection, Your Honor. People's 13A through people's 13 PP argument.
Thank you. And Debbie, I'd just like to view a couple of those photos with you. Can we bring up 13L? Debbie, what is this depict?
This depicts an overall front view of the vehicle that was involved in this incident while it was in the inside storage facility at Gemstone.
We can see M, please. And what is this depict?
This is a closer up version of the damage to the front of the vehicle.
And if we can see N. What is this depict?
Again, this is another picture of the front end damage, just kind of focusing on the right side of the vehicle.
So you initially went to Jim's towing on the 20th. You returned on the 22nd to continue your investigation, is that correct?
That's correct. I followed the vehicle to assure that it was placed in a secure inside storage facility, and then I returned on the 22nd to continue the investigation.
Other than taking photos, did you do anything else that's related to the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
What did you do?
I stood by while employee of Jim's towing, removed the vehicle's event data recorder, so I could take it back to the sheriff's office as part of the investigation.
What is an event data recorder?
An event data recorder is a module of most motor vehicles that will monitor various diagnostic points of a vehicle. It kind of constantly overwrites itself until an event occurs that causes the data points to be locked in.
Have you received any training with regard to event data recorders?
I did. And in August of 2021, I successfully completed the Bosch CDR technician training that was provided by the Institute of Police Technology and Management at the University of North Florida.
So Bosch CDR training, what is that? For the jury's understanding.
So the Bosch CDR is a computer program that allows us to image the data that's been locked in a vehicle's event data recorder, and use that image to produce a report that can be analyzed.
So you took custody of the physical device, the physical unit from the tow truck, right?
That's correct.
And once you took custody of it, what did you do?
Once I had possession of the EDR module, I returned to the sheriff's office and utilized the Bosch CDR software to obtain an image of the data that was stored on the EDR module itself.
Have you done this sort of thing before?
I have.
How many times?
I would estimate a few dozen times.
And this extracts information from the unit to create a report, you said?
Yes, it takes an image of all of the saved information on the module and generates a report for it.
The image show you what's been marked equals 14 as a stipulated exhibit, but just show it to you, identify it, could you tell us what that is?
Yes, I can. So this is a copy of the Bosch CDR report that was generated as a result of the image that I took of the data that was on the EDR module.
Okay, and that's the EDR module. Well, let's back up, I never asked you this. What kind of vehicle is this?
It's a Ford Edge.
Okay, do you know what model year?
I do not know off the top of my head.
So at this point, Judge, people would move for admission of People's 14 as a stipulation.
I believe it was stipulated already.
People's 14 is admitted.
Thank you, Judge. So despite how many of these you download, are you qualified to discuss the context of the report?
I am not.
Why not?
There's a separate course, which is an EDR analysis course, and I have not attended it.
So you're qualified to procure the image, but not to analyze it and discuss it?
Yes, so my qualification is for the use of the CDR imaging tool that allows us to obtain the image from the stored data.
And any further questions from Deputy Burkhart, Judge Cross?
Deputy, that's what you're, my voice up. The, you didn't do any reading or interpretation of this whatsoever, there's nothing back there, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
It is what it says. Yes. Thank you. Deputy, with our lieutenant from this next hour, list, he might be a longer witness.
So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch. I'm going to remind you that you're not to discuss this with anyone, including each other. I'm also.
Okay, so we are going to, oh, and actually it looks like this newscast skips over lunch completely. So we have about an hour left, give or take. So we'll finish this up and I'll give some last thoughts, but so far, like seeing the video of her walking out of her house, and, you know, I was looking for a cane because the defense attorney had asked the one deputy, did you see a cane in her car? And I would assume if she needed a cane to help her walk, she would have had her cane with her leaving her house. She did not. She seemed to be moving, you know, I didn't really think she was shuffling. Like they had said, you know, like the defense attorney had said yesterday in opening that she kind of like shuffled. I mean, she wasn't like going really fast, but I didn't think she was shuffling. And then to see again the video of her backing up. So she backed up relatively well. And then it's almost like she forgot to put her car in park when she hit the gas. And that's when she went around and hit the truck. And then she realized, oh, I didn't put my car in park. And then deliberately gunned it to the boat club. Like, I feel like it was deliberate, because why would you, she could have, if she was going to the boat club, she could have frickin' walked. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, Glow, my mom is the same way. She should use hers, but she's like, oh, I'll be all right. And then she'll be like, oh, I should have brought my cane with me. Nanny, I don't know. That it makes me wonder if she knew she hit the truck, because she may have. I remember when I first covered the story, I was trying to figure out how she had hit the truck, because it was just weird the way that she pushed the truck right into that fence and the fence fell down. So it does give a lot of perspective. And then to see her car, like, good Lord. Good Lord. All right. So we are going to get back in. I do know that the mother of Zane and Elena, I believe she is the last witness that testified yesterday. So that will be definitely emotional, I think. All right.
Factors 13.8 miles per hour.
And what was the accelerator pedal percentage?
point of impact, it was 13.8 miles per hour,
And what was the accelerator pedal percentage?
100%.
So aside from just, I don't want to say just, but aside from analyzing this report, you're familiar with the full scope of this investigation, is that correct? And you're familiar with the video evidence and investigation by other deputies, is that right? That crash that's recorded by the EDR, can you equate to the jury what real life event that memorialized?
Looking at the image itself, the operator of the vehicle for the first event had the vehicle in reverse and went into like a U-shaped motion and then crashed into another motor vehicle. But that first crash, there was no airbag deployment. But it created such an event that the EDR recorded it. And then shortly thereafter, there was another event.
Okay, so in the context of all the other information you know about this case, what crash is that EDR event referring to?
The very first EDR image,
Yes.
it's referring to the very first crash, motor vehicle versus motor vehicle.
Okay. And Lieutenant Quinn, I'll refer you to the table for a second.
I do.
In that, did the, well, first of all, the EDR recorded, and it recorded back 5 seconds from the time of the crash, is that right?
That's correct.
And in reviewing the entirety of the EDR image and the investigation, what crash does this reflect?
This image reflects the vehicle striking the building.
Can you tell at the time of the crash whether or not the braking system was engaged?
Yes.
Was it?
No.
Can you tell at the time of the crash what the accelerator pedal percentage was?
96.6.
What does that mean to you in terms of real life, in terms of what someone's doing with you?
Pedals to the floor.
And can you tell me, Lieutenant, 5 seconds prior to the crash, what was the vehicle's speed?
29.5 miles per hour.
How about 4 seconds prior?
30.3 miles per hour.
3 seconds prior?
30.7 miles per hour.
2 seconds prior?
32.9 miles per hour.
1 second prior?
37.8 miles per hour.
And at the time of impact, 0.0 seconds.
44.3 miles per hour.
No further questions, Judge.
Cross?
Sir, does it matter if the vehicle is a two-wheel vehicle or a four-wheel vehicle?
Does not.
And so you're putting that, you weren't there when this crash, of course, occurred, correct?
That's correct.
So you're relying on the mechanical device, correct? We're relying on a device not to be, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you're saying it was approximately 40 miles an hour thereabouts, correct? At the time of impact of the building.
I can only tell you what the 2017 Ford, that airbag module reported as in the image at 44 miles per hour.
Yeah, I'm sorry, how fast?
So 44.3 miles per hour.
And would that occur to reach that speed about 400 feet away from that speed you just mentioned in airbag deployment? Would that be, to reach that speed at 450 feet away, you'd have to pretty much put the pedal down to the metal, so to speak. Am I right? In other words, you would be driving 5 or 10 miles an hour and slowly drive. That goes many seconds for 400, 450 feet. You got to pedal, especially gravel, to the floor. Would you agree? Close to the floor.
I would say 50% of the flow.
And I don't know.
Any follow-up?
Briefly, just on that issue, Lieutenant, just looking at the same graph, just presently, go back to just looking at the accelerated pedal percentage, going from 5 seconds to 0.0 seconds. Is it consistent or consistently rising, or does it fluctuate?
For the second event,
Yes, sir.
yes, I'll try to.
Well, so the third part on the second event. On page 27, how does the accelerated pedal percentage start at 5 seconds?
As if she's not pressing on the gas
Okay, and then what does it go to at 4.5 seconds?
59.3%,
And at 4 seconds?
0 again,
And at 3.5 to 3 seconds?
80.1%,
And at 3 seconds?
82%,
And then at 2.5,
0 once again,
and then at 2?
100%.
So it's not consistently held to the floor?
No, it's not.
Okay, no further questions.
Just one question. Would it be consistent with somebody initially putting the pedal to the floor, well, I don't know better way to say it, and then ease up, and then pedal to the floor again? Is that how it looks? Or does it look like somebody put it to the floor and then just eased up and cruised into the building?
No, just from reading the image itself, and again, at 5%, there's no percentage. So the phone isn't even really giving it any pressure at all. But as we continue, obviously, you can see by the image that she is pressing on the gas, she releases the gas, and then she gets on it once again, so it's back and forth.
So it's almost like there's a seizure, a relax in the muscle, and a seizure again of the foot, whether it's intentional or not. Do you agree with that?
Objection, I think that question is
Oh,
highly suggestive.
well, I'll withdraw it. Okay, I think the jury.
All right, this for the speaker, excuse.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. Next witness.
Please judge at this time, people call Diane Medina. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Ms. Medina, would you state your name and then spell your last name for us?
Good afternoon, Ms. Medina. Thank you for being here today. If I ask you to repeat something, just lean in a little bit to the microphone, okay? Ms. Medina, are you familiar with the Swan Boat Club? How are you familiar with that? And how long have you been a member of Swan Boat Club?
10 years.
Are you currently a member of Swan
I
Boat?
am.
Were you present at the Swan Boat Club on April 20th of 2024?
I was.
Why were you there that day?
I was there for a child's birthday.
Did you know the child?
Not directly. I've met him maybe once or twice. Friends with the mother.
And who is his mother?
Kristen Sigler, Tweety.
Do you know what time you arrived to the party on that day?
I do. I got there about 10 minutes to 1.
Can you describe the party when you first arrived through the next hour or so?
It was beautiful. It was, I get choked up. Was there any kids? Dream or big party? It was just special.
That some point, did something cause the party to come to an end?
It did.
What happened?
Came through the wall.
Where were you sitting, if you can recall, when the car came through the wall?
I was sitting at a table with my back to the wall where the car entered.
Do you have any memory of that?
I do.
What do you recall?
I remember hearing, like a loud explosion, a bunch of like dust or debris going from the sides of my face. I remember being pushed. And I remember everything went silent for a split second. And I remember saying, don't step on me, because there was a bunch of stuff on top of me. I found out later they were tables. People were pulling the tables off me.
You mentioned a moment ago that it all went silent. Did you lose consciousness at that point?
I don't know that I did. I do know that I ended up with a concussion, but I don't know if it was like a moment stopped for me in my head, but it was like silent and in chaos.
This Medina, this is really hard. Can you describe the chaos that you just referred to?
I just remember people screaming, people running around.
Ms. Medina, did you incur any injuries as a result of this incident on April 20th of 2024?
I did.
Can you just briefly list for the jury some of the injuries that you incurred?
My pelvis was broken in 6 places. I had a screw that's 6.5 inches long going through the pelvis. I had internal bleeding. I had to have surgery to stop the bleeding. I had to have a blood transfusion. A concussion, like I said. My nose was crushed. I had 2 surgeries on my nose. I had a hematoma the size of a baseball on my arm. My tibia was fractured. I found that out later once I started walking.
And I know you mentioned the loss of consciousness or something, you were sure that was the case. Did you ultimately get diagnosed with a closed head injury?
I did.
I don't know how much you can elaborate on that, but just based off of your medical treatment, what, if any, treatment have you sought regarding that closed head injury?
I had to go to speech therapy.
Have you had any memory loss?
I did. I had a little bit of memory loss, but it was during conversations, I would lose my train of thought in the middle of a conversation, and I had to find my words.
On the day of April 20th, 24, do you recall if you were taken to the hospital?
I was.
What hospital were you initially taken to?
Originally, I was taken to Venmo.
And did you stay at Venmo?
I did not.
Where did you go, if you recall?
I was taken by ambulance to Toledo because it was a trauma hospital.
You know how long you were in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for a total of 17 days, 10 in Toledo, and 7 in a rehab facility.
And so from Toledo, were you discharged to that rehab facility?
By ambulance, yes.
And Ms. Medina, you went through the list of the injuries that you incurred. As you sit here today, what injuries are you currently still dealing with?
I just recently had, I believe it's called an EMG. I had 2 tests done on my nerve because I'm having nerve pain in my right leg. I'm not sure if it's caused from the accident nerve damage or from the screw that's going through my pelvis.
Obviously, you watched you walk in here today. You're able to walk?
I'm able to walk, but it does hurt to walk. Every step hurts.
Was there a period of time when you were not able to be moved?
Yes, for 3 months.
Do you have trouble, I know you said every step hurts, do you have trouble sitting for long periods of time?
I have to, not, I do, but I, kind of shift, yes.
This might sound like a silly question, but prior to the crash, did you suffer from any of these injuries?
No, I did not.
Did it hurt to walk prior to this crash? Are you in pain at the moment?
Right now, no,
Do you take any pain medication daily?
I do not.
the time of the crash, so April 20th of 2024, were you employed?
Yes,
How were you employed?
it's quality control for Hollinsburg.
And are you currently employed in that same
I
position?
am,
Did you have to take any time off of work?
yes, I took, I go back to work September 6th.
So approximately, if you can tell me how long?
4 months,
4 months?
from April 20th to September 6th.
That's okay, approximation is totally fine. And if any, what kind of therapies are you currently still treating?
I am not doing any therapy. For therapy was bothering my nerve and my legs, so we stopped until we figured out what's going on with that.
Ms. Benito, thank you for being here today with all the questions that I have to you right now.
Cross.
We'll cross,
All right, thank you. Just a minute. Yes, please.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, if people will call Ms. Smith.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony or past hearing in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Miss, would you state your full name and spell your last name for us?
That is going to be Leah Stitt, and that's spelled Stith.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Leah. Thank you for being here today. If I tell you to say something again, it's just because the microphone needs to pick you up, okay? And then you sound. Leah, are you familiar with the Swan Boat Club?
Absolutely.
How are you familiar with the Swan Boat Club?
Me and my family have been going to that boat club for about 9 to 10 years.
Were you present at the boat club on the date of April 20th, 2024? And what brought you to the boat club that day?
It was my little cousin's second birthday.
So you knew the birthday boy? And that was your cousin? Do you know what time you arrived to the party that day?
I want to say around 1:30, I'm not completely sure.
And can you describe the party? What it looked like when you arrived?
Everybody knows Tweety. They know she can throw a his birthday party. It was beautiful. There was just circus decorations everywhere. Everyone was having a good time.
At some point, did something happen that caused the party to end?
Yes.
What happened?
From what I remember, there was just debris flying everywhere, and it seemed like an explosion had gone off. And that's what I just assumed because of how much havoc was going on. But when I had woken up, I couldn't physically move, so I just heard everything around me.
Do you remember if you lost consciousness?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you come to realize whether it was an explosion that caused the party to stop?
Once I was able to move, I could only move my leg and my neck. It was probably just shock. But once I could move my neck, I looked over and saw the car breaking.
And I know you mentioned that you lost consciousness. Did you have any other injuries as a result of this crash?
Yes, I had 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a broken sternum, a giant hematoma in my head, as well as a concussion, and severe PTSD.
On the date of April 20th, 2024, do you remember if you were taken to the hospital?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember what hospital you were taken to?
That was, they may have renamed it now, but Trenton Beaumont at the time.
And did you have a stay at the hospital?
Yes.
How long were you there for, if you can recall?
About 3 days, I want to say 2 nights, 3 days.
And
I know you went through the list of injuries, but how are your injuries as you sit here today?
Physically, I'm doing okay. I still have random aches and things along those lines. And I am in the gym all the time, so I feel like not secure doing certain movements just in case something's not right in my body, which that's an everyday thing for me. Mentally, that's a whole other story. I don't drive myself places very often now. I'm very afraid of getting in cars, especially when others are driving. My anxiety has definitely gotten a little worse because of what happened. It causes random outbursts of it. Along with the PTSD, anytime I'm in a car, I have like slight panic attacks. But besides that, there were no lasting injuries besides mental.
Were you employed as of April 20th, 2024?
Yes, I was.
And where were you employed?
I was employed at the Taylor Ford dealership.
And I know you've since moved out of state since then, but as a result of this incident, were you off of work for any period of time?
I was off of work for a few months, and then I started doing part-time. It got a little overwhelming because I was working with cars constantly. And considering every time I'm in a vehicle, I get severe anxiety, I just try to avoid driving, but I recently decided to get a new job, try and forget what had happened.
Prior to the incident, do you know how much you were working at Taylor Ford? How many hours a week?
50 plus.
And then after this incident, you said you were part-time?
I was doing maybe 15, 20 hours a week.
Leah, how old were you at the time that this accident occurred?
I was 18.
Beautiful. That's all I got for you.
Cross examine.
No problem.
All right, thank you. You guys go down. Next witness.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Miss, would you state your full name and spell your last name for us?
Mariah Dobbs, D-O-B-B-S.
Thank you.
Ms. Dodds, you're the mother of Zane, Alana, and Jake Phillips.
Yes.
Where were you headed on April 20th last year?
I was headed to a birthday party
Where was the birthday party?
at the Swan Boat Club,
Have you been to the Swan Boat Club before?
just the night before to help decorate.
What garnered you an invitation? Why were you invited?
I'm the little boy's godmother.
And that was because of your relationship with Kristen Sigler at the time?
Yes.
Do you know what time you arrived at the birthday party?
It was approximately at 2:08 p.m.
And did you come alone or who attended with you?
No, I had my mother, my three children, Jada, Anastasia, and the nephew, Alex Smokes.
Once you got to the party, what did you do?
When we got there, we, just explored what was all set up. There's multiple tables and games, a bounce house in the backyard, and the kids just roamed around and had fun.
At some point, did you tell the kids it was time to eat?
Yes.
And you didn't arrive till 2:05, so do you know roughly what time it was that you said it was time for lunch?
It was close by 2:50 p.m. because it was right after Happy Birthday was sang.
What is the last thing you can remember from the birthday party?
After they sang Happy Birthday, my kids got their food, they were eating, and eventually, when they were done within a few minutes, they ate pretty fast. We were gonna go outside, back in the backyard to go on the jump houses, but, I placed a cake pop in front of Zane and Alana, so that way they would be able to get one before they got ran out. And that was the last thing I remember.
So you don't remember the crash at all?
Um,
After the crash, what's the first thing you remember?
Waking up in the hospital.
Do you have any recollection of the bubble club after the crash at all?
Just, I remember trying to open my eyes and it was black, like I was asleep or something, and I heard like long distance voices. And it was just a few things that I heard, and then that was it. And then I woke up in the hospital.
You don't remember an ambulance ride or anything like that?
No.
The first time you woke up in the hospital, what was your condition?
I was choking on the tube that was in my throat.
You had innovation, a breathing tube down
A
your throat?
ventilator. And then I was asleep. And then I woke up again.
When you woke up and you were able to assess yourself, what did you realize had happened to you?
Well, when I opened my eyes, I seen I was in the hospital room. And at that point, I didn't have a ventilator on. My wrists were free, pretty much shut down. I heard my sister next to me crying. I asked her, why am I here? And she said there's been an accident, and it occurred in my brain that how I was in the building the last time I remember at a birthday party. And then I freaked out because it hit me where my kids at. And then that's when she told me that Jada was life flew to the hospital and Zane and Alana were no longer there.
And you're in the hospital.
Yes.
Do you know what position you were in at that time physically?
Yeah, I was starting to freak out and wanted to jump up, but I couldn't. I was like so many with wires and machines, and at that time I didn't feel no physical pain because of all the medication they were pumping through me.
Did they put you back to sleep again? Do you know
Yeah.
at that time?
Yeah, it's like they tried to scream and everything was black, yeah.
At some point, when you had an opportunity to gather yourself, were you able to learn what injuries you had suffered?
Yes,
What were those from?
I had a punctured lung, broken ribs, broken shoulder blade, hematoma in my pelvic. My chin was busted open. My lip was busted open. I had mouth injuries resulting in losing a tooth and nerve damage throughout my face because of my teeth.
Do you know, by the time you were able to wake up and comprehend all this, how long you had been in the hospital under sedation?
Oh, just what my family told me.
It was days, so.
I didn't wake up till the next day after the accident. And I got released from the hospital, 4 days after the accident.
When you went home, were you able to walk and move freely?
No,
What kind of impediments did you have when you went home?
I had to use a walker if I did get up. It was very hard to move around. I couldn't get into a vehicle for probably a month. If I did, it was hard. It hurt severely. I couldn't sit straight up. I couldn't lay down, flat down. And it was just rough. I just sat there basically until I healed, until I made progress to move around. And I had physical therapy come to my home to work with me. And then that was helping, and then they sent me to outpatient therapy, and that it helped extremely.
And how long did that all take?
A couple months.
You said that you learned that your son Jaden had been life flighted to a different hospital. How long was Jaden in the hospital?
2 weeks.
When he came home, he eventually came home to your house.
Yes.
Were you able to care for him? At the time, how old was Jaden?
He was 11.
He's 12 now.
Yes.
Did Jaden receive any home care? I know you mentioned physical therapy for yourself.
Oh, yes. He had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and a regular nurse came to the home.
Do you know what injuries he sustained?
Yes.
What happened to Jaden?
He had multiple broken bones that consisted of his wrist, his fingers, he had a broken pelvis, his legs. He had a big gash on the back of his head. He also had a punctured lung, broken ribs,
Did
and
he
a
have to have,
concussion.
did he have to have surgery?
Yes.
Do you know what part of his body he had to have surgery on?
His finger, his legs.
How long, well, first I'll ask this way, Jaden's not gonna come testify today. Is Jaden able to walk and get around today?
Yes.
How long did it take for him to be able to do that?
Many months. I can't even give an exact time frame.
that right?
Yes.
Ross? Yes.
So, what's present?
He's.
And every time I work on your case, I think you're just. And I think that's a turning point. And you seem like a much stronger person than me. Back up. I wish you the best. People keep telling me God is a thing. This is too bad. And so I just wanted to come out and try to show up with the word that I created. To help you. And I don't have any questions for you. But
Judge, I people appreciate this, their votes.
okay, thank you very much.
You should be excused. Please, thank you. Next one is
Sorry. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Your Honor, we approach very quickly, yes. We lost.
You have other law enforcement experience prior to that? And you hold all of the trainings, education, certificates necessary to be a police officer in the state of Michigan?
Yes.
Were those up to date on April 20th, 2024?
Yes.
Were you working on April 20th, 2024?
I was not.
You were employed by the sheriff's office?
Yes.
And what was your assignment or role at that time?
I am a detective on that particular day. I was on call status.
How long have you been a detective?
At that time, I was a detective for about 2.5 years.
Were you involved in the investigation at Swan Boat Club on April 20th, 2024 and subsequently?
Yes.
What was your role?
I received a phone call from my supervisor, Detective Sergeant Cooper. He called me to inform me of the incident and asked me to respond to the scene.
And ultimately, was a determination made of what officers would lead that investigation?
Yes,
Who was that?
that was me.
And so you were off that day, you said?
Correct.
You were home,
I was.
and so how did you get to the Swan Boat Club?
I got dressed in my uniform and then I proceeded to get in my patrol car and I drove to the Swan Boat Club.
Where is the Swan Boat Club located?
It's in Newport, Michigan, off of Branch Road.
Was that Berlin Township?
Yes,
County Monroe,
yes,
State of Michigan?
yes.
What did you observe when you arrived at the Swan Boat Club?
When I arrived, there were many medical personnel and police agencies on scene. When I got there, I parked my patrol vehicle and I made contact with the supervisor of the road, Sergeant Bolnia. I also made contact with Detective Martin, who had arrived just prior to my arrival.
Do you know approximately what time you would have arrived?
I arrived at 4:30 p.m.
Was the defendant still there?
No.
During the investigation, you detective, were you able to determine approximately how many victims in total there were?
Total victims, there were approximately 12. Serious injuries through my investigation, there's 5.
And you entered the Swan Boat Club, I assume, on that day?
Eventually, yes.
And what did you see inside?
Total disarray of what appeared to be a child's birthday party. There was tables, chairs thrown everywhere, food, just total destruction.
Did you see any remnants of alcohol at this party?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Any empty beer cans,
I didn't
empty
see
beer bottles, empty kegs in use? Detective, what is a medical examiner investigation?
A medical examiner investigation is a investigation done by a detective or deputy that is trained through Dr. Carl Schmidt, who's our chief medical examiner for Monroe County. An investigation done by one of those people trained to help the coroner, basically it gives them an understanding of what happened at the scene. So it's a report prepared by a medical examiner that shows what the scene was. We take photographs, and then that report is turned over to the coroner or the medical examiner for autopsy purposes.
Is that because they're not coroner on the scene?
Correct.
So it explains to the coroner what occurred on the scene.
Correct.
And did you conduct a medical examiner investigation in this matter?
I did conduct 2 that day.
You did 2, one for Zane and one for Alana.
Correct.
And what were the nature of your findings? Where was Zane Phillips located in relation to the crash?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Where was Zane Phillips located?
When I arrived on scene, Zane was in the back of the ambulance in the parking lot of those homes.
What is part of your investigation, were you able to determine where he was prior to that?
Yes, through my investigation, after the vehicle impacted the building, I determined that Zane was under the front driver's side tire. Since there was a party, he had lifted the vehicle, he removed Zane, just pointing another civilian, took Zane outside and laid him in the grass, right near where the hole in the side of the building was. At which point they would give medical personnel to that.
Was he pronounced dead at the scene?
He was.
And what about Alana Phillips, where was she located?
Alana was located wedged between the door between the breezeway and the pavilion party area, and the front passenger side of the vehicle.
Yeah, was she also deceased at the scene?
Yes.
Judge, I have one marked as people's proposal, exhibits 23 and 24. These are the reports for Alana and Zane. I think these are simply 2, but I'm move to admit those.
People's 23 and 24 are admitted by stipulation.
And similarly, Judge, exhibits 26 and 28, we were stipulated to use the ME reports.
26 and 28, people's 26 and 28 are admitted by stipulation.
Second, I'm going to hand you exhibit 26. You tell me what that is.
This is a case summary on the death of Alana Chris Phillips.
If you please, profit would jury the cause and manner of death for Alana.
Cause of death is multiple blunt force injuries, and then in parentheses it says instantaneous. Their death is accident.
And I have you tomorrow, exhibit 28. You know what that is?
This is a case summary on the death of Sammy Isaac Phillips.
Can you tell me the cause and manner of death for those Isaac Phillips, please?
The cause of death is multiple blunt force trauma. And then in parentheses, it says seconds dash minutes. Their death is accident.
Thank you, Richard. Should I provide both those to your staff? And detective, as your role as the lead investigator on this matter, were you able to obtain medical records for Mariah Dodds, Diane Medina, Leah Stiff, Dave Phillips, and Edward Smothers?
Yes.
And Judge, I believe these are stipulated to as well, but for purpose of the record, I move to admit exhibit 34, not record for Edward Smothers, exhibit 33, not record for Diane Medina, exhibit 32 is exhibit, not record for Jaden Phillips, exhibit 31 is not record for Leah Stiff, exhibit 30 is more, not record for Ms. Medina, and exhibit 29 is not record for Maria Dodds.
All of those exhibits are admitted by stipulation.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, I have no further questions, please.
Cross.
You were investigating this case in terms of the right to I investigated it as well as, multiple other investigators.
But there were multiple.
Correct.
Did you ever see it go execute a search warrant in Burns?
I did.
Okay. And how did you come about information in Burns?
The information was relayed to me through the other deputies, prior investigation. She had done it.
Over the nutshell, saying, what was it based on? In that day, was it for the facts that made it for Burns, and that's what this is.
The defendant told me that deputies that she had done.
Who's that? And I thought that you had to speak up a little bit more.
From the other deputies' investigations, she advised one of the deputies that she had been Burns prior to the incident.
For lunch.
Yes.
And, that would have been about what time do you recall? That you gave your search warrant, about what time?
Noon.
And so did you and or other deputies go out to Vernos, and sort of close out the area, sort of crime scene?
Other deputies did.
Would that be like the yellow tape or something, or just, it's private, don't come in?
there, there was no yellow tape, it was just.
And the search warrant, your investigation, you participated at Vernon's Bar, whatever it's called.
Correct.
Okay. And did you talk to somebody there? Is there like a telephone or somebody?
I did not, Sergeant Cooper was with me, who talked to me,
And did your subpoena, were you able to get copies of any receipts that would have been in my client's name?
through a search warrant, I got a receipt.
And what did that receipt show?
The receipt indicated that she had purchased some food and 1 glass of wine.
1 glass of wine and some food.
Correct.
And did you get a chance to talk to anybody that weighed in on the researcher, such as Kelly or?
I did not.
Would have Detective Cooper, do you think he did or no?
I'm not sure if it was Detective Cooper or another deputy that was already asked.
Did you have any other proof that my client drank anything else on the premises?
At that time, during the search warrant?
During the search warrant?
No.
And were you aware that when my client was initially interviewed at the crash scene, that she told one of the investigative officers that she had a glass of wine at lunch?
Yes.
And with Vernon's, does that line up with what my client told the officer? With what happened at Vernon's on the glass of wine? Vernon's on glass of wine.
Right.
Does that line up with, she said, 1 glass of wine at Vernon's?
While I was at the scene?
Correct. We'll be back. My client stated at the crash scene during the investigation when we got to work that she said she had 1 glass of wine at Vernon's at lunchtime with friends, correct?
Correct.
And then when you executed the search warrant, unannounced search warrant, you pulled up a receipt from either a charge or a debit of my client's, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and it showed 1 glass of wine, correct?
Correct.
And it showed some chili or fish sandwich or something like that, right?
Correct.
I don't believe the question.
You redirect.
You may say. It's my understanding you don't have any rules.
That is unfortunately true today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you might imagine, a case with so many moving parts, experts.
All right, so we are going to end it there. We got through day 2. And I cannot believe that defense attorney, when they asked if he had, any cross, he gets up, and I thought I heard him like crying, and I'm like, there's no way he's crying. And then to make it about him and his loss, I cannot believe how insensitive. Like, what was the point of that? And if I was a juror, I'd be like, what the heck? Like, you're supposed to be, like, I understand him being emotional, but you're supposed to be professional and non-biased. And, obviously you can be empathetic, but like that poor mother, I agree, super unprofessional. And the other thing that I had put in chat is, she said her leg seized up. Well, taking your foot off the gas and then gunning it again, then taking your foot off the gas and gunning it again, that's not seizing up to me, in my opinion. And I did, the defense did say, well, is it possible that her leg seized and then it didn't, then it did, then it didn't? I guess it's possible, but I don't know. I've never had anything like that. health-wise, where like my leg would seize up and I wouldn't be able to move it. So I don't know. I think that she is guilty as hell. She was drunk as a skunk. She initially, because I remember with the preliminary, initially the defense was arguing, oh, she only had one glass of wine and a bowl of soup a few hours prior. You know, she wasn't drunk. And then when the toxicology came back, that's when they started twisting it to, oh, you know, she suffers from neuropathy. She has leg seizures. She shouldn't have been driving. And the defense had said she was treated for the condition that day. That day. So clearly something is amiss. And I don't think it's any of her medical professionals, but I hope we get to hear from her doctors during this trial, because I would love to hear what they have to say. Yeah, and Glow, they had said yesterday, I don't know if you saw yesterday's, but they had mentioned that she was on gabapentin and drinking. Allegedly, she just had one glass of wine. Yeah, no, ma'am. No, ma'am, you did not. Yeah. I mean, I feel like she stopped enough to put her car in drive. But I mean, and it was weird because when she backed up enough and stopped where she could have just put her car in drive and then driven off. But she ended up just hitting the gas and going backwards into that car, doing that like you. And then she just like gunned it out of there. I mean, what would I wrote it down? It was 43 point. Hold on, let me see. What did I write down? Oh, because I'm on the wrong page. 44.3 miles per hour at the time of impact. And 1 second before impact, she was at 37.8. So in 1 second, she had increased her speed 6.5 miles an hour. I mean, if I would think, this is me, if I was having uncontrolled seizures in my leg, if my leg allowed me to pick my foot up off the gas or to relieve the gas, I would have put it on the brake. Like, just move your foot sideways. You don't even have to pick up your foot. Just take your foot, lift it up, move it to the left, and hit the brake. But not once did she hit the brakes. Not once. It's just, there's a lot. And, you know, I don't know. We'll see. So tomorrow, I'm going to set the time for I'm going to do 3:45, just because I have to run an errand after work, and, you know, sometimes I get sidetracked. But I will definitely be home by 3:45. So tomorrow we'll go through today, which I had looked, they were still live when I had checked just a little while ago to see if they broke up day 3 into 2 parts, and they have. So depending on how long day 3 is, I think we'll just do all of day 3, because the prosecution rested today, which is day 3. And the defense was going to start their witnesses. So this will be interesting. Hey, Clip Hunk, yeah, it's wild. And I covered it when it happened. And then we covered the preliminary hearing. And I remember she thought they didn't think she was going to have to go to trial. And the judge said, not this judge, a different judge, was like, there's enough probable cause. You're going to trial. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. So I hope I will see all of you tomorrow, 3:45, and we'll see where it goes. So if I don't see you all on these YouTube streets, which you probably won't because I've been online a little too long, almost 4 hours now, I hope you have a great rest of your night, and I will see you on the flip side.
Let it take me to that place now. I won't ever let my thoughts get away now. I got better things to do, picking fate now. I just wanna be the best, call me great now. I don't know if I'm okay or insane now. I remember better days on the playground, hoping I can find my way even when I'm feeling down. I fight, even when I don't know what is right. I'ma pick a side, and I'ma take pride. I will decide my fate, and I will never let them tell me who I am. If you try to shake me, I'll be damned. Planet on the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside, I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside, I'm alone.